Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you're watching second and final part of What If Naruto Became Kim Possible's Sweetheart. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Not wasting no more time. Let's start the story.
As the Middleton High Cheer squad completed their last practice, Kim declared, "Okay. Great practice everyone. We're done for the day." Except for Bonnie, who walked over to Kim. The majority of the girls went off to the showers. "Kim, are you free to talk?" the brunette said. "Yes, Bonnie, I have time for everyone on the squad, even you. What's your ish?" The redhead sighed in frustration. Bonnie said, "It's actually your ish, you seem tired," with what Kim could tell was phony concern. Nevertheless, Kim chose to comply, saying, "Well, I did fly in from Bolivia this morning, had to rescue a foreign diplomat, it was no big." "That's good and all, but you have to ask yourself, did you give the squad 110% today?" asked Bonnie. The brunette's eyes narrowed as Kim said, 120%, Bonnie. "Well, I think the squad deserves some who gives like 130, said Bonnie. As Kim folded her arms across her chest, she shot back, "Someone like you." "Yes, someone like me," Bonnie said, imitating Kim. Kim didn't say anything. "If you think you deserve to be captain, take it to the squad if they want Bonnie instead of Kim, super for Bonnie." Bonnie declared, "Well, then go ahead, Miss Smug Mug, but I will be captain." Without retreating from one another, the two girls glared at each other directly. Naturally, Naruto could not resist this ideal moment as he entered the gym. "Rawr. Yeah, cat fight. Pull her hair. Rip her top off. Yeah, cat fight," shouted Naruto. All of a sudden, the girls glared at Naruto. Naruto asked, "No cat fight? You're going to kiss and make up?" "Naruto." Both girls snarled. Naruto ran to the boys' locker room and exclaimed, "Well, I think it's time for me to hit the showers." Then he smiled at them and stuck his head out a moment after entering, saying, "You ladies are always welcome to join if you'd like." To avoid a pair of thrown shoes, he ducked his head back inside. Standing invitation. Hours had passed since Bonnie's challenge, and Kim was still feeling very upset about it. Kim exclaimed confidently as she and Naruto walked out of Bueno Nacho, "Bonnie is just wasting her time. She doesn't stand a chance. She wants to come after my captain seat. Let's her try it." Meh. Be careful what you wish for. If Bonnie wasn't well Bonnie, she might actually give you a little trouble with this captain thing if she got off her ass and actually did something besides complain about everything you do. She has more time to devote to the squad than you, replied Naruto. "But, like you said, she's Bonnie, she's full of hot air," Kim said, dismissing his worries. Rufus blew a raspberry and gave Bonnie a big thumbs down to express his opinion. Naruto concluded, "Yeah, you've got nothing to worry about. Hey, a quarter. Lucky," he exclaimed when he noticed something shiny on the ground. The blonde noticed that the ground beneath Kim was beginning to move as he bent over to pick up the loose change. After hurriedly pushing her aside, he fell down the trapdoor that was opening. Naruto descended a brief vertical tunnel into a cylindrical pod that sealed up and blasted off down a tube tunnel, but Kim was able to catch Rufus before he fell in and the trapdoor closed. Naruto exclaimed, "Woo-hoo," as he flew around a number of twists and turns, enjoying the ride even more than a roller coaster. As it gained speed, the pod's bottom began to burn, but it abruptly stopped, and the end of the path with several other pod transports lined up beside it. Declaring that he might be in enemy territory, Naruto took a defensive position and produced his lone weapon, saying, "I have a spoon and I know how to use it." The pod's door abruptly opened, and as he cautiously emerged, a dark-haired woman wearing a form-fitting uniform and an eye patch approached him. "MILF," was the only thought that was going through Naruto's head right now. "Naruto stoppable. You're even better than we thought. We were trying to bring in your associate Kim Possible. Nevertheless, you will suffice for this debriefing and I'll leave it to you to get her up to speed," told the woman. She still hadn't made it apparent where her allegiances lay. Bring her in to get up to speed on what? Attractive older woman or not? "No worries, you are among friends. Welcome to the Global Justice Network," she said, observing that he was still on guard and that he was still unaware of his location. This surprised Naruto, who slack-jawedly exclaimed, "What? No freaking way." After shaking his hand, she answered, "Affirmative freaking way. I'm Dr. Director, the head of GJ." A male agent with dark hair who seemed to be of Asian descent emerged as another pod swiftly descended another of the transport tubes. Before introducing him, Dr. Director said, "This is will do, our number one agent." Naruto looked at the dark-haired agent who was frowning and instantly recognized him by the expression on his face that said, "Hello. I am an absolute and total tool." He nodded and held out his hand, which Agent Do immediately disregarded. Naruto thought, yep, a complete fucking tool. Follow me, Dr. Director commanded for the debriefing. Dr. Director led them into a spacious conference room using the remote control. She activated the slide projector and displayed a picture of a man wearing glasses and a blonde slicked back hair. Agent Do scowled at the nonchalant way Naruto kicked his feet up on the table and leaned back in his chair. This is Professor Sylvan Green. Dr. Director introduced himself. In the 1960s he developed a top-secret project. Naruto yawned and concluded, called the Sirenita Guided Missile Tracking Defense System. Where did you get that information? Asked the shocked Dr. Director. Naruto laughed. Had to research it for the accursed extra homework of one Vice Principal Steve Barkin. He has his own A&E biography, plus a military channel special. Dr. Director responded with surprise. Oh. In order to continue the debriefing, she hurried to the next slide. This is a photo of the professor now it said, cutting to a picture of the professor riding a lawnmower with balding gray hair. Missing? Naruto concluded. Don't tell me that was on TV too? Asked Dr. Director, giving him another startled look. Snorting, Naruto said, no, that was just plain obvious. Naruto, what would you say to you and Kim helping Agent Do find Professor Green? Inquired Dr. Director. Do you have to order him to speak? Or is he an android not capable of speech? Naruto asked, giving Agent Do a quick glance. Will smirked and said, 32 regional dialects, 14 different languages. What up, dog? Naruto asked. Huh. Will asked him blankly. Huh. Why didn't you make it 33? Ebonics too difficult for ya? Chided Naruto. Permission to speak, Madam Director? Agent Do asked, turning to face Dr. Director. You honestly expect me to work with some amateur cheerleader and her crazy sidekick? This is ridiculous, he said after she nodded. Naruto takes exception to this. Hold it there, officer. Don't. First of all, Naruto Stoppable has never been, nor will he ever be a sidekick. The only reason we're called Team Possible is because Team Stoppable is just a horrible name. Secondly, there's no way I'm working with this guy until he gets that operation. What operation? Dr. Director asked with an entirely serious expression. Naruto said, the one removing the massive stick shoved up his ass. The only thing that allowed Dr. Director to smirk a little on the outside while laughing uncontrollably inside was her years of experience. Will Do, who wasn't used to interacting with someone like Naruto, went on a tirade, listing all of his achievements and arguing that he shouldn't have to put up with amateurs like Naruto. Naruto simply ignored him, feigning to wipe his ear with his pinky until Agent Do was done. You know what? I'm just going to enjoy laughing my ass off as Kim runs circles around him. The blonde turned away from the agent and said, you want us, Dr. Director? You got us? When Kim learned that Naruto had stopped her global justice transport the following day, she was undoubtedly annoyed. Her worry about his disappearance had vanished in an instant, replaced by jealousy. Kim angrily exclaimed, I still can't believe you stole my GJ transport, as they left school for the day. He sighed. Yeah, save somebody from a possible death trap, and this is thanks you get. Believe me when I tell you. GJ leaves a lot to be desired, especially their agents. They're a bunch of tools, KP. They encountered Will Do after turning the corner from the school. Agent Do asked, Miss Possible, are you prepared to help me with my investigation? Snorting, Naruto said, see what I mean? Assist you. Your investigation? Let's get one thing straight. We're doing you a favor. You will treat us as equals, Kim said, squinting at Agent Do. Trying to out Kim. Kim? There's a losing battle if I ever saw one, laughed Naruto. Rufus nodded from his shoulder in agreement. Agent Do spoke into his watch after tapping a button upon seeing the nude mole rat, saying, note, subject seems to carry hairless rodent on person. Naruto was not going to be defeated. You think you're all fancy with your little GJ watch, huh? Meet Wade Lode's patented Watchy-Talkie 5000. Puts that piece of crap to shame. This watch is standard issue for all top global justice agents, Will said. With their watches raised as though to demonstrate who was better, the two appeared to engage in a Mexican standoff. Wade made the watch and the communicator. Kim obviously got first pick, and I personally think I got the better end of the deal, said Naruto. You think your watch is all that? But can it do this? Both said at the same time, pointing their watches at one another. Both of them pressed the buttons, with Naruto firing a stink gas pellet and Agent Do firing a taser. Both were rendered unconscious. Kim grimaced and said, idiots. She went over to give them a literal kickstart after impatiently waiting for them to wake up for a few minutes, but they both abruptly jumped up and took defensive positions. Kim took charge after growing weary of their antics and said, come on you two, we've got work to do. She immediately encountered another source of annoyance as she was leaving. Kim teasingly said, "Missed you at practice, Bonnie." Bonnie handed Kim a box of chocolate bars and said, "Sorry Kay. I was setting up the squad's new fundraiser." Kim gave Bonnie a narrowed look. "What fundraiser? I know your world-saving business keeps you busy and all, but y'all think maybe you could sell a box?" replied Bonnie. "Sell a box?" said Kim with a sly smile. "Oh, I should have no problem." Bonnie exclaimed, "Super," as an 18-wheeler approached the sidewalk and honked. The logo on the trailer was identical to that on the chocolate box. Bonnie gloated, "I'm hoping to sell a few myself," and hopped in before it drove off. Later, much. Naruto muttered, "Wow, it looks like she's actually going all out." Kim laughed at the idea. Who's she trying to fool? There is no way she is going to sell all that. Let's just get on with the mission. Weighing, Naruto said, "Reminds me of when I was in the nerd selling business." Kim asked, "I remember that. What were you selling candy for last year?" Naruto nodded. "Not nerds the candy, Kim. Nerds as in nerds. Jocks need help with homework and tests. Nerds need protection. I put them together for a small finder's fee. Technically it meant I was more like an agent, but selling nerds sounded cooler, plus it was a good cover since everyone thought I was selling candy. Good times, good times." He's meant to be a good guy, right? Agent Du thought. Later that afternoon, the two teenagers and a global justice agent were seated at Possible House's kitchen table, debating the specifics of the mission. Anne entered the kitchen and said, "Hello, Kimmy. Who's your new friend?" Getting to his feet, Will bowed and said, "Agent Will Do, Dr. Possible. It's an honor to meet you, ma'am." "You know me?" she asked, looking at him in surprise. "Your recent paper on the application of lasers in subcranial exploration was fascinating," he responded before quickly adding, "and the photograph did not do you justice." "On my territory, playing the suck-up card?" As he plunged into the discussion, Naruto thought, "Watch and learn." Well, I think the more pertinent aspect of her resume is being the Tri-City Mother of the Year runner-up 3 times. The only reason she hasn't won the award is to the very questionable relationship between one Mrs. June Roberson and the committee chairman. "So, I was right about the rumors?" Anne exclaimed. Laughed. "You were more than right. Let me just say that Wade has videotape of certain hotel meetings and audio recordings of outside their hotel room doors. I'm looking at the new Tri-City Mother of the Year." "Yes. Just wait until Mai hears about this," Anne said, pumping her fist. Naruto smirked at Will, saying, "Naruto 1 Agent don't 0. "Mom, we're trying to find a missing scientist here," Kim said with a scowl. Anne patted Kimmy's shoulder and said, "Good luck, Kimmy. Have fun, kids." Kim put the communicator on the center of the table as soon as her mother left. "Wade, did you get the data?" "Oh, I got it, a complete holographic simulation of missing Professor's home." On the table, a 3-dimensional hologram of the house was created by a display lens that slid out of the top of the communicator. Agent Du sneered, "I've already examined the crime scene." "We haven't." Kim shot back. "Wade, enlarge the point of entry." Naruto remarked, "Classic blow a hole in the wall method," as the entrance appeared. "Wade, what's that?" asked Kim, noticing a strange speck on the wall near the explosion site. After Wade worked his magic on the computers, the piece of material was transformed into a whole golf ball. "I don't know, let me isolate and enlarge it. Now let's fill in the blanks with an extrapolation routine." In an attempt to downplay the finding, Agent Du said, "Professor Green was retired. Many retired people golf." "Yeah, but why is there a golf fragment? Unless that walls was stacked with shelves of golf balls, there's no reason for that fragment to be embedded there," replied Naruto. "Wade, does Professor Green show up on any online discussion groups?" Kim asked, following a different line of thought. "Yeah, he's all over the map with gardening, botany, and even experimental fertilizer. His lawn won the Bluegrass Ribbon 3 years in a row," said Wade. "Goodbye." Wade, Will abruptly disconnected from Wade, saying, "Stop wasting my time." The man was captured for his weapons expertise. "All of his knowledge is out of date. He was a weapons expert in the 1960s, cried Kim angrily. "Besides, none his knowledge is secret anymore. You can find in a library or on the net," said Naruto. As he turned to go, an irritated Agent Du said, "Working with you 2 amateurs is a complete waste of my time." Naruto smirked and said, "Hold it there, Agent Dumbass, you don't want to leave just yet." "And why is that?" Will asked, clenching his fist as he stopped. "I haven't told you about the other trace element detected at the scene," replied Kim. Agent Du inquired, "What is it?" She casually responded, "Hyperactic acid, an experimental fertilizer found only on the black market." The black market, huh? There's only one place and one man to get the lowdown on black market gardening supplies. Time for a little trip to the Cloak and Dagger cafe, said Naruto. Big Daddy Brotherson, not a deal goes down without him getting a cut of it, and as you can see, he likes to get a very big cut, Naruto said, nodding to the short, heavy-set, balding man with dark hair wearing a beige suit as the three of them entered the cafe. As he brushed past them, Agent Do said, "Pardon me, amateurs." While Kim scowled, Naruto grinned and said, "Please, show us how it's done." Agent Do inquired, "Are you Big Daddy?" "That depends," Big Daddy said. Agent Do declared, "I have no time for games." "That's too bad. I was going to suggest you and my friend play Thud." Big Daddy smiled. Will looked at him incredulously and said, "Thud?" Behind him, a big man stepped out of the shadowed hallway as Big Daddy clapped. Agent Do was hurled out of the window a few moments later. "I love that game." Big Daddy snickered. "Thud, huh? Big Mike always gets a kick out of that one, the legendary BDB. How ya doin', big guy?" Naruto laughed as he and Kim walked up to Big Daddy. "Do I know you?" Big Daddy asked, finding his face familiar but unable to put it in place. "Yeah, I'm friends with Big Mike, Big Fat Polly's kid. We met at Polly's birthday last year," responded Naruto. Big Daddy was gnashing his teeth. "There was Jimmy, and Tommy and me, Anthony Stable and Frankie Carbone. Then there was Mo Black's brother Fat Andy O and Pete the Killa. Who is Sal the Butcher's brother, then the Razor, Mr. T. And Big Fat Polly. Oh yeah, Big Mike's crazy friend." "Huh. You turned White Mike's nephew orange. That was hilarious. Always hated that little punk." Nodded. "Yeah, that guy was an asshole. So, can you help us out with this thing? We're trying to track down somebody who's been in the market for." Kim said, "Hyperactic acid. I wish I could. I really wish I could, but this establishment has one rule of business: client confidentiality. My hands are tied," responded Big Daddy. "Business, huh?" Naruto asked himself. "Perhaps we can make a deal, right, Kim?" Kim took a bar of chocolate and ran it directly across his nose after spotting his hint. The sweet voice of Big Daddy exclaimed, "Is that milk chocolate?" Kim sniffed it too, then grinned and said, "With chewy nougat." The cherry on top was Naruto's comment, "She's also got caramel, a whole box worth." There was no chance for Big Daddy as they left the cafe. Kim exclaimed, "Got the name and sold Bonnie's box of chocolate. All in all, not a bad day's work." "Well?" said Agent Do, impatiently tapping his foot as he waited for them outside. "Well, what?" Naruto asked. "What's the name?" Agent Do insisted. Naruto jeered, "What, you need help from us amateurs?" In response, Kim said, "Duff Killigan." Naruto complained, "This guy sounds like a whopping bowl of bad ramen." "My GJ portable database will tell us all we need to know about him. It's standard issue for all top agents," smugly stated Agent Do. "You've already seen the communicator specially designed, just for me," laughed Kim. Naruto looked on in awe as they rapidly typed away at both devices. Naruto muttered, "It's like some sort of nerd off, man. I could made a boatload of cash selling a popular cheerleader nerd. That's like the holy grail of nerds," he thought as he recognized the fantastic opportunity. Kim declared, "He was born in Scotland," Will added, "Former professional golfer, with heist." Naruto yelled, "Dude," as he noticed a dark figure standing on a suspended walkway a block behind them. "Banned from every golf course in the world, even mini golf," said Will. For excessive displays of temper, Kim clarified in a hurry. "And he's about to go Island Woods on us, and we don't have time for this," interrupted Naruto. Duff called out, "For," and threw a golf ball at them. Agent Do said, "Weapon of choice," first Kim concluded, exploding golf ball. Naruto slid between them and kicked the ball straight up into the air, where it exploded safely high above the rooftops. Just as it was about to land at their feet when the explosion subsided, Killigan had vanished. Once again, "Hacky sack saved my life. You alright down there, buddy?" Naruto exhaled in relief. With an empty wrapper in one paw and chocolate-covered lips in the other, Rufus gave a thumbs up while sticking his head out of his pocket. Naruto complained, "Aw, man, I was saving that. It all makes sense now. The exploding golf ball at the crime scene, the attack on us. Killigan is our man," stated Agent Do. Kim and Naruto both said, "Thank you, Agent Obvious," at the same time. The first thing that Naruto said was, "Jinx, you owe me ramen." Kim clarified, "Only one bowl," as she produced the communicator. "Wade, we're after a Rouge golfer named Duff Killigan. We need the location of his lair." Wade asked in confusion, "Did I hear you correctly?" You said Rouge Golfer? The redhead put away the communicator and said, Naruto, we're heading back to Middleton. Kim simply shook her head and said, I know, Major Weird. Time to gloat about how you sold your chocolate and Bonnie still has tons of her own. I'm all down for that, replied Naruto with a grin. The following day, Kim was shocked to learn that Bonnie had, in fact, sold all of her chocolate. She also provided the squad with new uniforms, which were now gold in color. Bonnie concluded by introducing a brand new cheer that the team had just practiced. That's what giving 150% looks like, Kim. Bonnie was proud. Be careful there, Bonnie. Wouldn't want you to overdo it. I hear at 160 you spontaneously combust, Kim responded with disdain. Naruto interrupted, Kim, we got the location for Duff's lair. Bonnie walked back over to the rest of the team and smugly said, Don't worry, Kim, I'll handle everything here. Kim roared in frustration, and turned to march away. As he observed Bonnie's vanishing shape, Naruto muttered, I have to admit, she is really wearing that new uniform. He hastily added, the whole is squad looking especially foxy in them, as Kim glared at him. Let's go, Kim said, simply grabbing him by the collar and pulling him away. Bonnie has never been this good. How could she come up with all of this stuff for the squad? Kim yelled. I told you before, if she actually put her mind to it, she could be a potential problem. She has way more free time on her hands, said Naruto. No need to be so tweaked. Pulling out the communicator, Kim grunted, I am not tweaked. Wade, we need a ride. What's got you so tweaked? Wade asked, picking up on her agitated tone. Kim shot back, for the last time, I am not tweaked. Ride. Wade just indicated. When the two and the mole rat looked up, they saw a red hover jet approach from above. Naruto mumbled in amazement, what in the, Wade, how did you manage to obtain one of these? A beaming Kim said. The GJ hover jet, standard issue, said Agent Do as he approached with a remote, swiftly erasing that smile. Kim complained, for all top agents I get it already. Naruto wrapped his arm around his shoulder, man, I don't care how much of a douche you are, this is one sweet ride. Though, you may want to tone down the whole top agent thing. It makes it sound like you're overcompensating for being light in the pants, but if you are overcompensating, then play on playa. Will simply ignored the Naruto reasoning, asking, wah? Days would pass before it finally dawned on him, and he would have to vent his annoyance on an anonymous global justice intern. The irony of the situation struck Naruto as the island where Killigan's lair was located came into view. Naruto began with a quiet giggle but quickly lost control and burst into uncontrollable laughter. Kim questioned, what's so funny? Killigan's island? Biwahahaha. Naruto roared, collapsing on his ass for laughter. Both Will and Kim stared at him blankly, then shook their heads and turned back to face the front. Naruto sighed, you guys suck. I need to hang out with Ron again soon. We could do a Gilligan's weekend marathon again. Again? Will and Kim exchanged a bewildered glance with one another. For what reason would you do it? Soon after landing on the island, they went inside the building in the middle that was designed in the Scottish style. They hurried through the double doors that were clearly marked, dungeon. Remaining steadfast in his weapons theory, Agent Do reasoned that Killigan must have Green here working on some kind of missile system. No chance Professor Green's green thumb is the reason behind all of this, said Kim, rolling her eyes. Nodded. Killigan kidnaps Green and then buys tons of hyperactive acid. Coincidence? No freaking way. The acid is the same type that Green had been experimenting with at his home to grow his award-winning lawn, Kim added, going into further detail. Naruto wondered, some sort of super grass, huh? There was a thick layer of grass covering everything in the area. Naruto believed he saw a dog pacing beneath a portion of it. Kim exclaimed, over here. I think I found Professor Green. Naruto and Will rushed over to the tall pod-shaped patch of grass where she was standing. Kim said, Professor, are you alright? GRMMM. The grunts from the pod said. Taking Rufus from his pocket, Naruto placed him on his shoulder and said, Rufus, you're up, buddy. He jumped from Naruto's shoulder to the top of the pod and received a thumbs up from Rufus. He sliced through the grass with his small but sharp claws and slid the pod to the ground, slicing it open as he went coughing and gasping for breath. A grateful Professor Green pulled himself away from the grass. Sylvan cried out, thank you. Killigan trapped me in my own super fast growing grass. Really, how interesting, Kim said, glaring at Agent Do. Professor Green, said Will, ignoring her, I'm Agent Will Do. We need to debrief on any weapons systems Killigan may have acquired. What are you talking about? Anything he would want to know about my weapons work could be found in a public library, responded Professor Green. Naruto laughed and said, he's after the super grass. Will shot back, what could he possibly want with super grass? Ooh, I know, Duff exclaimed as he jumped up and down with excitement as the door at the top of the stairs next to them abruptly opened. Kim started to say, Duff Killigan is planning, but Naruto interrupted. KP. I've got this one all figured out. It's far worse than anything you could have possibly imagined. He's going to become the new worldwide drug kingpin, said Naruto. Everyone yelled, what, and stared at him as though he were crazy. Unperturbed, Naruto continued, the name Duff Killigan, it's a pun on Duff Kill Again. He's going to use the super fast growing grass to corner the market on weed. The only question is who'd he kill before to become Duff Kill Again? The answer is of course Hector Jimenez and the Venezuelan cartel. He's going to start by rebuilding from the remains of their drug operation. In his thick Scottish accent, Duff screamed, what are you talking about? Why would I go and do a crazy thing like that for? It's in your blood. Like the Lucky Charms leprechaun. I mean come on, pink hearts, yellow moons, green clovers, orange stars? That leprechaun's on acid, said Naruto. Duff shouted, I'm Scottish, not Irish, ya moron. This laddie's got a couple screws loose. As I was saying before, he plans to use the super grass to turn the world into one giant golf course, said Kim. He said, that's right lassie. Duff answered. Naruto exclaimed, that's so fucking lame. My plan was much better. Think of all that weed. You could turn factories into city-wide hotboxes. The Scottish Mr. Nice Guy. I have no interest in smokin' blunts laddie. Alcohol is more up my alley. I'm turning the world into my own personal golf course, stated Duff. That's insane. Well, muttered Duff teasingly said, let's just see if you can get a tea time. Duff closed the door in Agent Dew's face as he hurried up the stairs. Despite his strongest efforts, he was unable to open the door. Having a hard time? Kim asked in jest as she rolled up and used a lipstick tube that Wade had converted into a tiny cutting laser to cut open the door. Ladies first. Duff said, I knew you'd be up for the challenge lassie, as soon as she entered the next room. Duff was leaning on his golf bag when Agent Dew sprinted straight past her. The golfer in the kilt pulled out a 7-iron and knocked Will off balance, causing him to tumble into a rug and become tangled. With a chuckle, Duff said, I'm not so sure about that one. Kim said, Mr. Killigan, put down the golf clubs. You won't even be able to pry them out my cold dead hands lassie, Duff said, grabbing his golf bag and taking a few steps back to sit it behind him. Between them, the floor was covered in golf balls, so Duff took out a 3-wood and began hacking in order to avoid the attacks. Kim jumped up to the chandelier and hung on. Agent Dew was not as fortunate. He was knocked out cold by a stray golf ball as soon as he untangled himself from the rug. The scene that Naruto and Professor entered was this one. Duff attempted to trip Naruto the same way he did Agent Dew, but Naruto jumped over the club and grabbed a 9-iron from Duff's bag. Duff swung at Naruto and yelled, hands of my clubs laddie. As the two engaged in a sword fight with the golf clubs, the blonde blocked with the 9-iron. Naruto yelled, dude, why are you wearing a skirt? What the hell man? It's a kilt, exclaimed Duff. It's a skirt, Naruto exclaimed. A kilt, the golfer exclaimed. A skirt, the blonde yelled. Kilt, skirt, kilt, rabbit season, Naruto exclaimed. Duck season, Duff exclaimed. Then, abruptly, Naruto jumped away from him. Elmer Fudd, exclaimed Kim, startling Duff with a spinning kick that sent him flying. He landed close to the fireplace and rose slowly. Duff turned a little emblem on top of the fireplace and vanished under a secret tunnel that opened up beneath his feet before swiftly closing. I'd love to stick around and play a round of sudden death, but I can't let the grass grow beneath my feet, he said. Kim yelled, come on, he's getting away, as she dashed to the door, followed closely by Professor Green, Agent Dew, and Naruto. As soon as they were outside, they saw Killigan making his getaway in a blimp that was dyed the same shade as his kilt. As Will took off in its direction, he yelled, we've got to get to the hover jet. Kim shouted, wait, slow down. Will paused and faced her once more. He whimpered, what, he's getting away. Duff probably loaded this place with booby traps. You've got to be more careful, cautioned Kim. Naruto scoffed, you know what, you're both amateurs. He and Professor Green just pointed down, but they both turned to glare at him. They discovered that they were sinking in quicksand when they looked down. Naruto muttered, falling into a sand trap, how pathetic. Duff was long gone by the time Naruto and Professor Green managed to free them, and they all returned to the hover jet. Professor, Will said, turning away from the controls. You, focus on driving any idea of Killigan's target, Professor? Kim said, turning his head back around. Professor Green said, oh, yes, he intends to strike back at the first country that banned him from a golf course, Japan. Naruto yelled, Japan is a ramen nation, no one touches a ramen nation on my watch, as the light abruptly went dark and cast shadows over his face. Duff Killigan, you're going down. Spreading seeds on the ground and watering them with the super grass formula to create an abundance of wild grass, Killigan laughed as he ran through the streets of Tokyo as far as the eye could reach. The ground and buildings were covered in green as the hoverjet touched down. Naruto snarled when he saw a green-covered ramen stand while Kim headed straight for Duff. Naruto jumped out and fled to unidentified territory. Kim yelled, Killigan, stop, and ran in his direction. No way, lassie. Not until the Pacific Rim is my new putting green. Duff mockingly sprayed the ground in front of him with the secret formula and spread more seed. Kim jumped in the air to avoid getting caught in the wildly bouncing grass. Will had to eject in order to get away when the grass overtook the hoverjet. Kim danced back and forth to avoid being struck after Duff threw some exploding golf balls onto the ground. She was soon out of breath from the fast-paced barrage of attacks. Duff took a huge backswing and taunted, ha, looks like you're wearing down, lassie. Will took advantage of the situation by leaping in front of Duff and firing his taser from his watch, but it bounced off Duff unharmed. Asking, are ya daft, man? Duff shook his head. The sound of a lawnmower caused Duff to turn his head before he could complete his swing. He was horrified to discover Naruto mowing his lawn with a lawnmower. Duff yelled, no, you're cutting it too short, as he abruptly aimed at Naruto in order to avoid Duff's explosive balls. The blonde began freewheeling it in the mower while making various donuts and zigzags. Kim was grateful for the brief respite and headed straight for Duff, but he returned his focus to her. Duff threw an explosive ball at her and yelled, bad move, lassie. No one dodges my short game. The ball sailed past Kim without her even having to move. Her voice was a shout, you missed. In response, Duff simply chuckled and said, it's a wedge, lassie. It's got backspin. The ball rolled back towards Kim as she started to run, but Naruto's mower riding pass abruptly changed its path. Get off my lawn! Duff screamed as he returned his focus to Naruto, who was shooting ball after ball. Kim picked up a cottony ball of dandelion weed seeds and blew them in Naruto's direction as Duff attacked. Some got in his face, and he sneezed. A wee weed, lassie? Is that the best you can do? Laughed Duff. Kim's reaction was to use his watering can super grass formula to saturate his face. Oh no, was Duff's first reaction upon realizing the implications. He was soon ensnared in a huge ball of cottony seeds. When Naruto pulled to a stop at his golf bag, Rufus and he both burst out laughing. Then Naruto roared, oh man, he looks like a sheep. Fluff Killigan is more like it, while laughing. Duff spat out seed after seed and yelled, get this weed out of my mouthy. Anybody got $5 for the neighbor kid? Asked Kim, grinning as she turned to face Naruto and Rufus. Both Rufus and Naruto burst out laughing. Humor, amusing, Will said. Will was pushed back toward his hoverjet by Kim, who grabbed him and said, okay, bye, nice to meet you. Have to get home to get another thorn removed from my side. Duff yelled, you won't get away from me, lassie. He sprang high into the air and dove at Kim, somehow moving despite being stuck in the weed. Naruto yelled, no one gets the drop on me, as he grabbed a driver from Duff's bag and used one of Killigan's own explosive golf balls to aim, dynamic drive. Before it exploded, the ball sent Killigan flying for roughly 50 yards after nailing him in the chest. Killigan's smoking body fell unconscious in a heap on the ground. The master of unconventional weaponry strikes again. Muahahaha, said Naruto as he bowed. Muahahaha. Rufus joined him in his phony evil laughter. Will looked at him with a blank expression. That's the guy you have covering your back? I was wrong about him being a sidekick, but he's definitely crazy. Kim sighed. When you're going up against supervillains, crazy is a good thing. Will said, I guess I owe you guys an apology. Kim shook his hand and smiled. I'm glad you're a mature enough person to admit it. Will said, you were of great assistance to my investigation. Assistance? Were you paying attention at all this entire time? Kim glared at him and yanked her hand back. Will nodded and left, saying, goodbye, Kim Possible and Naruto Stoppable. Kim exclaimed, I can't believe that guy, with annoyance. He sighed, we solved the mission. He provided a hoverjet to get from place to place. We could have done a lot worse for a chauffeur. Rufus said, nice ride. but he won't even consider that maybe somebody else deserves some credit. That somebody else can do a better job than he can, yelled Kim. The guy is a complete and utter tool who cares what he thinks, Naruto said, giving her a blank stare. Kim shook her head and laughed, saying, good point. Naruto suggested, now, why don't we head home? You still have to deal with Bonnie. Ah, don't remind me, she should just give it up, said Kim. Naruto said, maybe Captain Bonnie isn't so bad, KP. What? She asked, staring at him as though he were crazy. Look at all the stuff she's done since she actually put a good effort forth. Plus, I bet motivated Bonnie is a lot easier to deal with than the Bonnie who just complains about everything you do, said Naruto. Kim thought, you might be right, if she's busy doing all this stuff, less time to annoy me. Before giving Naruto a quick, accusing look, wait a minute. You just like ogling the girls in the new uniforms. They said, this isn't about me, Kim, it's about you and the squad. Naruto didn't respond. You didn't deny it. Kim grinned. Naruto sighed, no intention of doing so. Think of this though, all the crap Bonnie gave you as captain. Kim said, turnabout is fair play, as her eyes brightened. Bonnie tapped her foot impatiently, complaining, let's just hurry up and do this already, instead. I don't think it's fair to decide who's going to be captain without the whole squad present. Let's wait for Kim, told Tara. It's not like her being here is going to make a difference. I want this captain thing decided now. The brunette mocked the idea. Kim said, relax Bon, I'm right here, as she entered the gym at that precise moment. Naruto waited eagerly for the fireworks to begin, leaning against the gym's entrance. Bonnie challenged, let's do it. Kim smiled slyly and said, fine by me. I'll go first and I vote for Bonnie. A confused Bonnie said, no way, wait, what? You're voting for me? I think you've done a terrific job with the fundraising, the new uniforms and the new cheer. I think you're the right girl for the job, stated Kim. You rock, Bonnie. Bonnie said, really? Incredulously, yes. All in favor of Bonnie as the new captain? Kim asked, nodding in agreement. Every member of the squad expressed support for the motion. She was patted on the shoulder by Kim, who said, you worked really hard for this. Bonnie sighed with relief and said, yes, I did. I'm glad that's over with. Kim nodded. Bonnie, you're the captain now. The hard work is just beginning, girls. Now that Bonnie is the new captain, you can direct cares, concerns, or suggestions to her. Immediately, the squad gathered around Bonnie and began bombarding her with requests. It was open season with a new captain, but Kim had easily stopped this at the start of her captaincy. I think we should all do something different with our hair. There's a new style. I want new shoes from, I want a solo routine. My boyfriend just got promoted to varsity on the baseball team, so I think we should start cheering at their games too. These uniforms are okay, but I was thinking something more glittery. And Kim was now standing beside Naruto, who was giggling uncontrollably at Bonnie's expression. He asked Kim, how long do you give her? With a smile, the redhead said, 2 weeks tops. Among the girls gathered around her, Bonnie yelled, Kim, you did this to me on purpose, as they continued to discuss the various changes they wanted to make to the squad. Kim simply gave her a naive glance, which made Naruto laugh even more. Bonnie yelled, this is not funny, Naruto, I'll get you for this, Kim. Kim's voice brimmed with phony sincerity as she responded, but Bonnie, you asked for this. Naruto settled into the last starting block along the track and taunted, I suppose it's time to give the city something new to talk about. How about I break my own school record, Phillips? The lanky male junior with brown hair shouted, up yours Naruto, from 3 lanes over. Sorry, I don't swing that way. You'll still be stuck with lusting after Mr. Evan. Naruto smiled as he looked straight ahead. His reply was interrupted by their coach's incessantly loud whistle. Coach Summers yelled, enough chit-chat over there, ladies. This is practice, not a social club. As she pulled out her starting pistol, she made them stay in place for a few seconds, then fired the starter pistol, and they started racing. Naruto picked up his stride quickly and was off to a perfect start as the team's star sped around the track at a breakneck pace, leaving his teammates behind. The other practicers stopped to watch. As he watched the sprinting performance from beside Coach Summers, Mr. Barkin whistled in appreciation, saying, that was impressive, I'm definitely getting him on the football field next season. Coach Summers grumbled, he's got better than impressive speed, he's got freakish speed. I'm talking the human speed of light. Human speed of light? Barkin asked, looking at her bewildered. Explained, he can already crack under 10 in the 100 in the 40-yard dash. He can run a 4.2. That is human speed of light. Only the best of the best can run that fast. He does like it's nothing. It's not just straight ahead speed either. His lateral quickness and ability to change directions are off the charts too. You couldn't even build up an athletic freak like him in a lab. Barkin smirked and said, and you thought I was just passing you off some shrimp who wasn't big enough to play football. She turned to him and said, you were just trying to keep out the hands of the baseball and basketball coaches until he hit his growth spurt. Naruto taunted him from the finish line. That's what speed looks like, Phillips. In case you were wondering, I bet I could do the 200 backwards and still be faster than you. Now, I know you're full of it. If an idiot like you tried to run backwards, you'd get lost, replied Phillips. A beep from Naruto's watch broke up the trash talk session. Naruto said, what the datbayo is going on, Wade? Wade retorted, you'll never guess who needs your help. Taking a long swig from his water bottle, Naruto paused before answering, all right, shoot. Wade's face appeared on a tiny screen that appeared when the top of his watch abruptly turned over and enlarged. When did you add a video link attachment to the walkie-talkie 5000? Replied Naruto. Gave the whole watch a little upgrade. You're now sporting the walkie-talkie 5500, said Wade. Naruto was unable to recall a recent instance where he had truly removed his watch. When did you replace? You know what? It's probably better if I don't ask, since the item was waterproof and indestructible. It was unnecessary to take it off while on missions or even taking a shower. Before hitting a button that altered the feed, Wade merely nodded in agreement and said, check this out. Moments later, a yell of, holy shit, echoed throughout the Middleton High campus. That's extra homework for you, Stoppable, was the next statement. Kim was struggling to get the squad to perform their new routine inside the gymnasium. The most recent attempt ended with a huge spill from a collision, leaving the majority of the girls tangled on the floor. Bonnie pretended to be surprised for a moment before being taunted. Who decided to put in this fussy routine so close to regionals? Oh, right. That was you, Kim. Kim got up and dismissed herself, saying, that fussy routine is going to win us regionals if you actually can remember your part. To get everyone's attention again, Kim clapped her hands and said, all right, let's try that again from the top. Kim, I've got big news, said Naruto as he rushed through the door and grabbed the communicator from Kim's bag. He was dismissed by the redhead, who said, so, not the time, Naruto, I'm busy. Naruto begged, but, Kim, this is really big. Okay girls, let's take it from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, Kim said, pushing him off the ground while ignoring him once more. Picking up the megaphone from the ground, Naruto took matters into his own hands. Hey, I bet all you girls would be interested in knowing that your captain still sleeps with. Kim yelled, Naruto, as she grabbed the megaphone out of his grasp and pulled him out from behind the stands. What is it? Smugly, Naruto pushed the communicator in her face and said, check out who needs our help. No freaking way, was yelled, almost knocking the other cheerleaders off their feet. Shigo and Draken were tied up on the screen. Kim demanded, Draken and Shigo. What? When? How? Draken said, actually ma'am, I'm Private Cleotis Dobbs, United States Armed Forces. He was speaking with a Southern employee. And I'm Lieutenant Colonel Julia Ray, Shigo said, with a Southern accent as well. Naruto exclaimed, it's invasion of the body snatchers. The only explanation Kim could think of was, unless you have a better explanation, I'm going with his. Julia answered, your blonde friend there isn't too far off. Private Dobbs continued, that Draken fellow used some sort of fancy gizmo to switch our brains with theirs. It wasn't natural, I tell ya. The statement, wait a minute, their brains are in your bodies, still shocked Kim. Lieutenant Ray said, yes, with a nod, quiet. That mean girl that hits is coming ba, interrupted Private Dobbs. The screen went to static and the feed abruptly stopped. Since he was correct, Naruto rewarded himself by saying, score 1 for the Naruto. That puts the tally at what? Me, said Kim, rolling her eyes. Wade interrupted, you and Naruto about even and me way ahead of the both you. Glaring at him, Kim said, Wade, just fix the feed. His response was, I'm working on it, as he typed quickly. Later, as they went down the hall to her locker, Kim grumbled, this is a nightmare on top of the regionals tomorrow. We have to deal with this Draken weirdness. Naruto dismissed her worries, relax, KP, you'll nail the regionals, we'll shut down whatever Draken is cooking up, and then I'll nail my qualifiers this weekend. We're winners, it's what we do. According to Kim's perspective, you make my life sound so easy. He sighed, I've got state qualifiers this weekend, way bigger than your regionals, and you don't see me bugging out. That's because running fast in a circle is so very complicated, Kim was deadpanned. No more complicated than prancing around and shaking what ya mama gave ya, laughed Naruto. You're smart, pretty, athletic, and popular, your life is such a drag. Kim replied, sure, running laps, pranking, screwing around in D-Hall, and eating your weight in ramen is such a complicated existence. At her assessment, Naruto sneered, I am an essential member to this school's infrastructure. Kim laughed, I'm surprised you can actually use the word infrastructure properly in a sentence. Simply shaking his head, Naruto said, well, I guess not all of us can be Miss I Can Do Everything. When Wade appeared on the computer screen and Kim opened her locker, she gave him a fierce look. I couldn't regain contact with Lieutenant Ray and Private Dobbs, the frequency was jammed, told Wade. Naruto questioned, what about background checks? Wade nodded. Everything was classified, all I could get were the ID photos from their badges. Wade showed the pictures, which showed Lieutenant Ray as a trim blonde woman with a French braid and Private Dobbs as a slender, brown-haired man in his late 30s with glasses. Why would Draken want him and Shigo in those bodies? Kim asked, utterly perplexed. Naruto said, it's obviously classified. Wade and Kim looked at him sardonically. Naruto clarified, the reason why they took the bodies, it's classified. So, not even funny. Wade and Kim joked. Naruto let out a frustrated groan. Draken and Shigo are trying to gain access to whatever is classified about the backgrounds of Lieutenant Ray and Private Dobbs. The reason why they took the bodies is literally classified. Sheesh, and people call me an idiot. You're on a roll today, Kim said, blushing in shame and giving him an awkward shoulder pat. Naruto simply sulked and shook his head over a Wade, Kim said, turning back to Wade. He said, I'll see what I can dig up and get back to you, and then disconnected. Kim rushed after the running Naruto and yelled, where do you think you're going? I wasn't finished with our previous conversation. I have tutoring, class government, year book committee. Kim continued as they stood in the lunch line. Before acting to keep his lunch edible, Naruto muttered under his breath, yes, all the requirements that come with being Miss Busybody Smarty Pants. Hold it. No need for the sauce. Just hand over the noodles, brought my own broth. As she handed him the plate of noodles, the lunch lady glared at him. Naruto almost threw up after taking a quick look at the pathetic ruse the cafeteria was making about meatballs and marinara sauce. As she responded to the communicator, Kim turned away to avoid gagging and said, yeah, hold the sauce for me as well. Go ahead, Wade. I tracked down the call that came from the people in Draken and Shigo's bodies. It's totally bizarre, said Wade. As bizarre as Draken and Shigo stealing other people's bodies? Asks Give, glaring at him. Wade sighed, it's all relative, I guess, but get this. The call came from the middle of the Grand Canyon. Now why would they be calling from Bonnie's VA? Said Naruto, jumping in. Naruto, said Kim, slapping him across the back of the head. He answered hastily, I was going to say vacation spot. Kim said, yeah, and my cousin Larry is a shoo-in to be the starting quarterback at his school next year. Kim and Naruto mounted donkeys for their trek into the Grand Canyon after receiving a favor from an elderly ranch hand from the southwest named Baxter. Naruto was struggling to find a suitable steed. The third donkey he attempted to mount simply bucked him off once more as Kim shot him a smug glance from atop her own donkey. Naruto got up and brushed himself off. An irritated Naruto joked, no wonder you two get along so well. Only the great Kim possible could be more stubborn than a donkey. I can see why he doesn't want to let you on. After all, you're not better than him. You're an ass, chided Kim. Naruto nodded his head. You know what? You completely left yourself open, but being the nice guy the first time, I'm going to take the high road. Kim teased, did I hurt little Naru's feelings? This time, Naruto got a willing mule and said, no, I'm literally going to take the high road. If this trip is going to delve into finding the biggest ass around here, I simply can't compete with Miss Bubblebutt. That is totally uncalled for, said Kim, her mouth dropping in disbelief. By putting his hands to his face and pretending to cry, Naruto said in a high-pitched voice, little Kimmy got her feelings hurt and she wet the bed again. I don't understand why I can't have a normal child without these problems. She's such a problematic little girl. Why can't she be more like her brothers? It's just not fair. One of these days, stoppable. One of these days, pow. Right in the kisser. Kim shook her fist at him. They arrived at a small blacksmith's shack in the Grand Canyon, which the communicator claimed was Draken's lair. They opened the door and entered. Aside from a scorpion scuttling to escape, nothing seemed out of place. After searching for signs that this was indeed Draken's lair, Kim finally sighed in frustration. What are you doing? she asked as she turned back to face the front of the lair and saw Naruto dangling from a furnace pipe with one arm. With a shrug, Naruto said, "Just hanging around." Naruto accidentally pulled a secret lever inside the pipe, which caused a hidden elevator to rise up next to the furnace, as he reached up with his free hand to swing to another pipe. "And the impeccable Naruto luck strikes again," said Kim, pumping her fist. Naruto grinned and said, "You can't stop it, you can only hope to contain it." Kim pushed the button to descend as they entered the hidden elevator. Some cheesy elevator music started playing as soon as the door closed. Face palming, Naruto said, "Oh come on, elevator music? Really? Draken installed elevator music?" asked Kim, shaking her head in shock. Fortunately, the journey was brief because Draken's lair was revealed as the elevator doors opened with a ding. They crept between a group of cylindrical liquid containers after exiting the elevator. Naruto noted, "Looks like he's added some new features to this lair." "Nah, it's the same, he just changed the color scheme," said Kim, shaking her head. They discovered that the containers were connected to a massive, intricate machine as they passed them. Naruto said nonchalantly, "It appears we've located the Brain Swapper Deluxe. How much you think we could get for this on eBay?" As they scurried past the machine and towards some crates, Kim simply grinned. They ducked around a few corners and came to a stop when she let out muffled grunts and yelled, "Help!" Coming from a container, Kim discovered two signatures inside the crate. After using the communicator to perform a thermal scan, the bodies of Draken and Shigo were exposed when the two teenagers each grabbed a piece of the crate's slide and pulled back the board. Naruto muttered, "This is going to take some getting used to." Cleotis and Julia cried out in delight, "Team Possible," before their expressions abruptly changed to one of caution, "Look out." Shigo was taunted from atop a box of crates, rescues over Kimmy, while a number of henchmen with electrical staffs circled around. "I would say something about being downgraded from your own superpowered body, but being that you're now a military woman, you're probably twice as deadly," said Naruto. "Well, aren't you the sweetest thing?" said Julia, flushed. Ignoring them, Shigo jumped down to take Kim hand to hand. Kim had her hands full with the villain even though she lacked superpowers. "You body-thieving bitch!" Julia yelled as she rushed Shigo and slammed her head into a stack of boxes. Naruto yelled, "KP, move it," as he seized Private Dobbs and fled away. Kim called back, "Right behind you," and pulled Lieutenant Ray along for the ride. "Don't let our bodies get away," Shigo yelled, clambering back up and grabbing an electric weapon. Shigo fired two blasts from the electric weapons, snapping their grappling cables once they were in mid-strike, as Kim and Naruto both drew their grappling guns and fired them into the ceiling for an aerial escape after the henchmen blocked Naruto's escape route. Went flying into the containment unit for Draken's brain switch machine, while Kim, Julia, and Naruto slipped out of Naruto's grasp and dove into a crate. Regretfully for them, Rufus landed on the activation button after being launched from Naruto's pocket. As the machine turned on and operated the three-way switch, three connectors fell and attached to their heads. The three turned to face one another as soon as the machine shut down. Kim said, "I'm Naruto," as if speaking from Naruto's body. Lieutenant Ray's voice from Kim's body said, "That means, I'm you." The dark expression on Shigo's face caused everyone to turn their heads and back away as Naruto's voice erupted, "This fucking tanks. This is so wrong," said Julius Real Shigo, who was also not happy. "Don't y'all think we should be getting out of here?" said Private Dobbs, who used her distraction to knock her into a stack of boxes and tiny crates. Kim said, "But, we need to switch back," Naruto yelled, "No time," as henchmen with weapons charged, forcing them all to escape from the machine while Naruto grabbed Private Dobbs. Kim grabbed Rufus, and they sprinted out the door, dodging the henchman who was attempting to approach them. Lieutenant Ray was able to keep up with their antics until Shigo and a gang of goons blocked their way out. "There's no way I'm letting you get out of her with him in my body," said Shigo, as he hurled a plasma blast at her and the henchmen, causing them to all jump out of the way. Naruto growled, "You should have thought about that before you went body snatching in the first place." Kim hurried to an offside valve and opened it, letting steam fill the room. Shigo snarled and leapt back up, saying, "Don't let them get to the—" The ding interrupted her, and she sighed sadly, "Elevator." That evening, dinner time at the possible home was a very strange event. Tim, Jim, Anne, and James were too confused to even taste their dinner. They continued to stare in disbelief at the bodies of Draken, Kim, Shigo, and Naruto across the table from the outside. It appeared as though they had joined forces and switched partners simultaneously. It was simply too strange. As Private Dobbs devoured the remaining mashed potatoes on his plate, he exclaimed, "This sure is mighty tasty chow, ma'am." The lack of table manners displayed by her subordinate caused Lieutenant Ray to sigh in disgust. "I'm sorry. I cannot eat while sitting across the table of my daughter's arch foes. It's not right," said James. With a frustrated sigh, Kim said, "Dad, I've explained it's not really Draken and Shigo, it's just their bodies." Anne was skeptical. "I hear you, honey, but as a board-certified neurosurgeon I have to say, it's just not possible to swap brains." "Point taken, Mrs. P, but how else do you explain me being both literally and figuratively the hottest female in the room right now?" asked Naruto. The remark only caused Anne to raise an eyebrow, but Kim exhaled a sigh of relief and said, "Thank God he's not in my body. Chasing bad guys, switching bodies, high school sure has changed since my day." James laughed heartily. "Well, it has been over th." Naruto smiled. Kim clamped down on him, saying, "Just don't." "I want to switch brains with you," said Jim, looking at Tim curiously. Tim replied, "Who'd know the difference?" with a perplexed expression. "That's the point," smiled Jim. After giving it some thought, Tim grinned and said, "Cool." Julia took the communicator out of her pocket as it beeped abruptly, declaring, "I'm captured Kim Possible and her family hostage. Unless you provide me with the World of Warcraft secret hack you developed, they're all going to burn." Naruto seized the communicator and shot Wade Shigo his trademark menacing glare. "No chance." Brain Switch Boy handed over to Kim. Wade didn't buy it. Naruto grumpily handed it over, saying, "I'll get it one of these days." Kim begged, "Please give me some good news, Wade." "No good news. There've been security breaches at the posts of Lieutenant Ray and Private Dobbs," told Wade. "Not good," Julia muttered. "Something's been stolen. Something big, something top secret," shouted Wade. Jumping Jehoshaphat, the neutralizer, Private Dobbs, leaping from his chair, cried, "Dobbs!" Lieutenant Ray glared at him now that everyone was looking at him. Dobbs laughed uneasily and said, "I'm sorry, you weren't supposed to hear that. Take a seat." Lieutenant Ray snarled as she jerked him back into his seat. "I'd tell you that this isn't one of those, but I'd have to give you bad deals, wouldn't I?" As he tinkled with his glass, an interested James asked. Lieutenant Ray suggested, "Why don't you just forget anything about the neutralizer?" She realized what she had said a second too late, and exclaimed, "Crap. The situation worsens according to my scan. Draken's lair is deserted, it's all gone." Wade cried out. "Including the brain switch machine?" Naruto said, going pale. Wade confirmed, "Including the brain switch machine. Thus, we will be stranded in this situation." Kim cried out in horror. "Hey, at least you can show my face in public," Naruto said, giving her a comforting pat on the shoulder. "There are warrants for this one. Take caution when using the neutralizer. All this thanks to that meddling Kim Possible finding my lair." Draken screamed as the movers unloaded everything into his new lair. "This time Cher has nothing wrong with it," Shigo shrugged. The movers' crash cut Draken off in the middle of his reply. "You idiots are unable to read the box's side. Fragile, it says," Draken yelled. "Where would you like this brain switch machine, Chief?" "Well, just leave it in the den for the time being," Draken replied. "I'll take care of it later, and watch out." When the phone rang and he answered it, his complaint was rewarded with yet another crash. "Dr. Dementor is not here. He made a move," Draken yelled as he ended the call. "That's all of it, Chief," said a mover who approached him holding a clipboard. "Click here to sign." "What a minute, I never saw my body come in here," Draken said as he proceeded to sign the machine. "What about this tall, scarred face with blue skin?" "This is everything that was in the truck," the mover answered. "The truck is empty." "Shigo." Dr. Draken growled. "Okay, so they might have taken our bodies," she said with a grimace. "You allowed Kim to possibly take my body," Draken said, almost popping a blood vessel. "They also got mine. In addition, they were struck by the brain switch machine, so they will eventually come to us." Shigo shot back, "I have a teenage boy trapped in my body right now, and I'm in worse shape than you guys. Until we find Draken and his machine, we'll just have to deal." Kim sighed back at the dinner table. "Oh, this is nice." Naruto groaned. Kim turned to see Naruto stroking Shigo's hair sensuously. "What are you doing?" "Running my hands through these gorgeous locks has been a dream of mine," Naruto replied. "I'll take what I can get, but it never happened this way." The implications of his words caused Kim to grimace, saying, "Ew." When Naruto opened his eyes, he saw that everyone was staring at him. "Didn't I say that aloud?" Kim moaned, "I'm so glad he didn't end up in my body." "Hey!" Lieutenant Ray exclaimed as Naruto began frantically stroking Kim's hair. Her hair is just as nice as yours, so I'm not missing out, Naruto cheered. Why me? Kim yanked at Naruto's blonde hair as she glanced up at the sky. After exchanging glances, Anne and James both started laughing at the same time. Mom, Dad, this is really not amusing, Kim moaned. Kim had a terrible nightmare the following morning, and Naruto had a terrible time. To put it simply, the ordeal of trying to find Naruto Shigo clothes to wear was insane, and she wasn't sure if she should be relieved that Naruto wasn't wearing her own clothes and underwear or annoyed that they were too tight in some places. Forcing him to wear her mother's. Kim was now entering Naruto's house in the hopes of surviving a change of clothes without permanently damaging her mental health. I'm glad his clothes fit him well. All I need to do is put on my eyewear and quickly put everything on and off, she whispered to herself. Eric, this is DJ, she said, nearly bumping into Naruto's father as he left the house while chatting on his cell phone. I received their recommended sentence, and there is no agreement. She cannot be exonerated of a Class 1 felony on probation. Inform Stevenson that things are difficult or that he can try his luck with the jury. Even better, when I get in, I'll tell him myself. I'll see you in around 20 minutes. He patted his son's shoulder as he passed him, saying, Hey, there, Nitro. Are you prepared for this weekend's qualifiers? Kim pulled off a decent Naruto impersonation, saying, I'm going to leave him in the dust, dat bayo. Attaboy. I'll see you later, he waved as he made his way to his vehicle. Phew. Kim whispered as she went inside and made her way to Naruto's room upstairs. Hey, Mom, she said as she passed Mai Stoppable on the stairs, carrying a medical journal in one hand and some dirt scrubs to launder in the other. Without even raising her eyes, Mai said, Hello, Kimmy. Kim didn't realize, wait a minute, how did she, until she was done getting dressed. Naruto stood in the center of the yard, crouching with his hands at his sides, as soon as Kim left for his house, and Naruto went to the backyard to perform a long overdue experiment with Wade. Look at my new body's ultimate powers. Ta-da! Ho! As green plasma energy engulfed Shigo's body, Naruto yelled. Go! How much plasma does he have? Tim exclaimed as he extended the communicator to obtain a reading. 4,000? 5? 6? Jim asked as the numbers kept rolling in on his scouter. Wade shook his head and said, Nah. 7? Tim inquired. No, Wade shook his head once more. Jim started to say, it's over 8, but Wade interrupted him. Dude, we are so far away, not more than 800, Wade shouted. What? Jim, Tim, and Naruto yelled. Wade said, yeah, a robust 783. However, that isn't feasible, Naruto cried out. We were wrong. Wade sighed. Your physique simply isn't adequate. An emotion that Naruto had never experienced before surged up somewhere deep within him, and he was suddenly overcome with a righteous, raging rage. You mean that my body isn't good enough? Naruto yelled. What the devil? Shouted Wade as his scouter went on the fritz before suddenly exploding and blinking one number repeatedly. It's over 9,000. What? 9,000? That can't possibly be correct, Jim and Tim shouted. Kim attempted, but failed, to teach Lieutenant Ray the regional's routine later that morning at school. No, 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 no. When Kim played the music and started to show Julia the routine, she yelled, You've got it all wrong, come watch me. Naruto, sporting a guest pass, rushed out from behind the bleachers as soon as she completed the routine, saying, All right. I forbid you from engaging in any cheerleader-related activities within my body. Simply give someone else the lead and give Julia a chance to backtrack. I will not allow this body sitch to spoil regionals in any way. Why are you here anyway? Yelled Kim. I told the office I was a guest instructor for the squad for regionals. Naruto shrugged. Your little routine will be taught to her by me. You must be somewhere else this weekend because I still have qualifiers. All right, Kim said, taking out her instructions. Remember Toa. After grabbing the instruction manuals, Naruto escorted her out of the gym and exclaimed, Racetrack. Go. 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 A weary Kim strolled into the cafeteria during lunchtime, quickly discovering that the sprints required to prepare for Naruto's qualifiers were far more challenging than she had anticipated. She was distracted by her thoughts when 3 jocks strode to the front of the line and threw a smaller boy out of the way. Junior appeared behind her out of nowhere and said, Boss, are you just going to overlook that? When she realized she had to take action, she raised her voice and confronted them, saying, Hey, you guys, what do you think you're doing? In response, the trio's leader said, Bite me, Stoppable. Another said, Yeah, we're not afraid of you anymore. You're really going to challenge the boss right here in front of everyone? Junior asked, giving them a crazy look. Kim quickly glanced around the cafeteria until she saw the name on a letterman's jacket and said, "Yeah, by the time I get through with you guys, you'll be demoted to 4th string behind Riggins." They moved to the back of the line as the leader abruptly went pale. "Whoa, cool it, man. All of that is unnecessary, aren't you?" The other two stepped as far away as they could and nodded. Junior scowled at her and said, "A bit harsh there, boss. Way harsh behind the water boy." Kim snapped back, "I'm having a bad day." Abruptly, Vinny ran into the cafeteria, saying, "Boss, Junior. We had to climb Big Mike again. Ricky and Steve are attempting to collect toll on our property." Kim asked herself, is there any way this day could get any worse? To carry out her daily responsibilities, the redhead was sought after by numerous individuals throughout the school. "Where is Kim? I'm not sure. I was told I could locate her here. I need her approval on a font for a section of the yearbook." "That can wait. I need to know if she's ready to tutor at Middleton Middle School next week. I have a more urgent deadline with that banners she promised to paint by Monday." She added her own thoughts as Bonnie passed by, as if, before the regionals, she should concentrate on finishing her hair and makeup. 2 sets of eyes peered down through a shift in a ceiling tile above them. Before he and Lieutenant Ray fled, Naruto muttered, Kim was too many extra activities. Since tinkering with Shigo's powers that morning, Naruto had been feeling a little off, and to be honest, he was hormonal as a result. He wasn't particularly in the mood to put up with Bonnie's nonsense during the last regionals tune-up session. "Why would you invite a guest teacher so near regionals, Kim? Nothing can be changed now," Bonnie cried out. "Because I invented this practice, I'll make sure you win the whole thing because I know it best. The modifications will be effective. All of you now line up," yelled Naruto. As they went through the routine, Naruto went on to examine each girl up close and personally. When he eventually turned to face Bonnie, he scowled at her unending frown and said, "Smile." He immediately changed his mind, saying, "Never mind that, don't smile," as she flashed her pearly whites after giving the other members of the squad a smug grin. "Never." "Listen up, bitch," Bonnie said, almost flipping her lid. With a poke to her chest, Naruto said, "You need to chill out." "I don't need," Bonnie prodded him in the chest. Naruto's mood abruptly changed, and everyone gasped when he grabbed the back of her head and pulled her in for a deep kiss. Bonnie was initially completely taken aback, but Naruto's attention to detail felt so good that she quickly responded instinctively and engaged in a fierce tongue fight, while the other girls just watched in disbelief as what appeared to be a shouting match turned into a makeout session between 2 girls. Naruto simply stood there with this glazed look as they both took a few minutes to recover, and when she finally realized what had happened, she fainted into Terra's arms. "Go kick some ass. You girls are ready." As he left for the girls' locker room, Naruto muttered absently, "I need to hit the showers." Here, he did what he thought he ought to have done much earlier. Strip off, locate a shower stall, turn on the warm water, and have sex. Kim leaned against the urinal stall and sighed with relief. She had made it to the restroom and relieved herself without coming into contact with anything that would permanently scar her. When she was finally done, Kim opened her eyes, her face pointing down at the thing she had been avoiding all along, momentarily forgetting her dilemma. "Holy shit!" was yelled from the boys' restroom. Mr. Barkin felt compelled to give Naruto more homework and detentions after he abruptly glanced up at the vents in the hallway. Later, as she struggled to accept that her best friend could pass for a tripod, Kim staggered through the hallways in a daze after leaving the restroom. Kim and Naruto watched her team's performance at regionals that afternoon, both of them seated anxiously in the stands as she watched Hope play the lead role and Lieutenant Ray transition into a supporting role as a result of Naruto's change. She was on the edge of her seat. Hope's performance was perfect, and the team won the competition. When the news was announced, Kim gave a whoop of delight. Naruto looked at her expectantly and said, "Well." Kim gave him a hug. "You didn't give Bonnie the lead and we won. A double win. Thank you, thank you, thank you." "Yes," said Naruto with a sly smile, "I rock pretty hard, don't I?" Wade grinned and said, "I got it," as his watch beeped a moment later on the video link. In no time, the 4 victims of the body swap moved in the direction of a complex's barbed wire fence. Wade was providing them with information while Kim had the communicator out. Draken slipped up when covering his tracks. He wanted his mail forwarded to his new address. "It's some sort of timeshare complex," told Wade. As the others exchanged sardonic glances, Kim grimaced and said, "Timeshare lairs? You've got to be kidding me." "Go figure. You should be able to find him in Suite 7B, told Wade. The group ducked behind a number of crates before reaching the lair's back door, being careful to avoid the security cameras. Private Dobbs gave Kim a doubtful look as she reached for the door handle, saying, "There's no way he leaves the back door open." Naruto grumbled, "This is Draken we're talking about, he always leaves the back door open." They entered Draken's lair after Kim smirked as she turned the knob and opened the door after stealthily entering. They hurried to hide behind some of Draken's equipment. They could see the neutralizer sitting in the center of the lair from where they were standing after a lengthy tirade about his unsuccessful attempt to issue an ultimatum. Draken came into the room. "Perhaps you shouldn't use the puppet next time," Shigo said, shaking her head in frustration. "Gra. People need to learn the true measure of my wrath. I hear Tahiti is nice this time of year. It'll be the most explosive vacation of their lives. Ha ha ha. Enter coordinates," said Draken. Kim muttered, "Okay, Naruto and I will keep them busy. According to Lieutenant Ray, and we'll disarm the neutralizer." Private Dobbs muttered, "I really don't know how to do that." Rolling her eyes, Julia said, "Just cover me." Henchmen used blaster weapons to destroy the machinery they were hiding behind, interrupting their brief planning session. As he strode straight up to Kim and stepped in her face, Draken exclaimed, "You're finished, Kim Possible." With a threatening glare, Naruto engulfed his hands in energy and said, "Step away from my body." He recoiled instinctively and scurried back in terror. "I thought you'd have him well trained," Naruto grinned. "Gripping," Shigo said, "had to break him in like a damn puppy." Draken commanded, "Enough of this. Finish them." Naruto and Kim exchanged glances before separating in different directions as the henchmen charged forward with their blaster weapons. Shigo roared, "Leave my body to me," as she rushed after Naruto, who had resorted to Kim-style acrobatics in order to evade blaster attacks. Kim teasingly remarked, "Way too slow." At the henchman who was attempting to follow her in the lair, she zigzagged between rows of machinery. Exploiting their lack of aim and speed, she eventually led the way to a spot where it looked like they had her circled, but as they fired and started taking each other out, she leapt high into the air. Kim went to assist Lieutenant Ray since Dobbs was now occupying Draken and Shigo was preoccupied with Naruto. Shigo launched another blaster attack at Naruto, declaring, "This is the last time I ever let Draken near me with a brain switch machine, letting some teenage boy have carte blanche with my body. You'll pay for every dirty act." "Girl on girl action FTW," yelled Naruto as he returned fire and ducked under a blast. "Oh, you so did not do what I think you did. You had no right," Shigo glared at him. Whatever, it's my hot body, I do what I want." Naruto shook his finger covered in plasma at her. To barely escape a blast to the chest that left a gash in his shirt, Naruto leaned back. "This was my favorite shirt," he exclaimed, looking back up at Shigo with tears in his eyes. With a puzzled expression, Shigo asked, "What's the matter with you?" "It's your body. What the hell is up with these damn mood swings?" said Naruto. Laughing uncontrollably, Shigo said, "I'm entering my cycle." A vicious spin kick powered by plasma silenced the laughter, sending Shigo flying into a wall and knocking her unconscious. Naruto snarled, "I must leave this body before that occurs." As he cornered Private Dobbs, Draken yelled, "I want my body." He turned around in shock as a green plasma blast whistled past his head, only to be grabbed by the throat by a black-gloved, feminine hand with a flaming fist brought right up to his face. Naruto. Shigo's expression was somehow 10 times more frightening than that of regular Shigo. "If I ever find you messing around with brain switch machines again, you're spending the rest of your miserable life as a dung beetle. Do I make myself clear?" said Naruto. Draken muttered, "Yes, ma'am," and then passed out. "Enough with the damn neutralizer. Find that damn brain switch machine now," he said, turning to face Kim and Julia. Julia arched an eyebrow, asking, "What crawled up his butt?" With a startled expression, Kim said, "I think he's on her cycle." While Naruto was shouting at them, they both started laughing and ran across the lab to find the machine. They had forced him to wait to be switched last, much to Naruto's chagrin, but he did escape the terrible fate of menstruation. Shigo had woken up just before the switch and tried to exact some sort of retribution for the liberties she was certain Naruto had taken with her body. When she reached into his boxers and actually got her hands on the prize underneath, her attempt to expose him and humiliate him was foiled. She simply turned and stared at him in disbelief before fainting once more. Naruto didn't notice because he was too busy thinking about destroying the brain switch machine after he got his body back. Kim was happy that things were back to normal, but when she heard about Naruto's adventures as a cheer instructor the following day at cheerleading practice party for their regional victory, she fell to her knees and thanked God once more that he wasn't trapped in her body as a result. Kim invited Naruto to join her. Hard work, When track practice was over, he sprinted to the gym. Naruto exclaimed, "Hey, hey, hey, hey." As he pushed open the gym's doors and went inside, he saw the rest of the team talking on the bleachers and Kim waving at him from the middle of the gym. Kim exclaimed, "Rufus," while extending a plate of nachos. Leaping out of Naruto's pocket, Rufus squealed, "Cheese," and scampered over to Kim. "What's going on?" Naruto's thought was interrupted when the lights flickered back on after briefly going dark now that Kim was gone. Naruto was encircled by the cheer squad, all of the girls wearing ominous scowls. When Naruto realized the jig was up, he begged, ladies, please. There's a perfectly good explanation for all of this." Bonnie said, "You wanted to be castrated?" He said, I have qualifiers tomorrow? After taking another chance?" Liz threatened, "The only thing you'll be qualifying for is a body cast." "There's no talking my way out of this one, is there?" Naruto sighed. Hope laughed and said, "No chance," Naruto declared. "Well, then before I die I would like to say just one thing." Before he could say, "It was totally worth it." "Well," said Bonnie, tapping her foot impatiently for the anticipated apology. Naruto dropped a smoke bomb on the ground and exclaimed, "You can remember this as the day that you almost caught the great Naruto stoppable. Mwahahaha." Despite coughing from the smoke, the girls could clearly hear the door slamming open. Bonnie yelled, "You're not getting away that easily," as they all hurried out the door. "Not even you can outrun righteous female fury, Naruto," said Kim, shaking her head as she trailed behind them in the hopes of picking up the remnants of whatever was left behind after they had finished with him. Had any of the girls been listening, they would have seen the UPS box next to the door, which had not been there previously when it was safe to do so. Naruto in his Autobox gear emerged from the box. Naruto screamed, "Boximus Prime strikes again," and ran away in the other direction. As Kim rummaged through the books in her bag, Naruto stood beside her locker, attempting to use a pencil to reach an itch under the bandage wrap on his arm. When Naruto finally scratched the itch under his arm wrap, he asked, "Remind me of why I'm decked out in all these bandages, along with a fake walking boot and arm sling." "Because, there's fake video I circulated to the squad of Shigo showing up and taking revenge for all the stunts you pulled in her body," Kim replied casually. Naruto let out a whistle of appreciation. "Nice cover, thanks. I can't believe they bought that fake setup you gave them the other day, as if I'd accept anything other than free ramen from you as compensation for a job well done." Kim said dryly as she opened her locker, "Right, I've got bigger fish to fry. My family is having another family game night, and I'll be stuck with cousin Larry." Wade appeared on the screen and said, "Maybe I can help with that. A baby bald eagle got lost up at the Northwest Wildlife Preserve. They could use some help tracking it down." "Done and done." Kim pumped her fist and exclaimed, "Kim, you can't abandon your family to go save a bird." Naruto scowled. "I am capable of doing it. However, it's Larry," Kim declared. "You have no idea what it's like to have a cousin who is a total weirdo." Naruto simply shot Kim a sardonic glance. "But, you and Ron actually have things in common. She tried as an alternative strategy. You adore vintage television programs. Who doesn't love old TV shows, Kim?" sneered Naruto. "Kim offered to pay for dinner after we returned." With a smile, Naruto shook her hand right away and said, "Done and done." Knowing she had been taken advantage of, Kim squinted at him and said, "Well played, sir. Well played. No ramen, though." "It's been a while since we hit up Bueno Nacho," shrugged Naruto. "How will you respond to all of that?" Kim asked, gesturing to his bandages and wraps. Glancing up, Naruto saw Junior standing across the hall with a freshly reheated cup of instant ramen. "Junior, strike me." When the blonde threw the ramen cup into the air, Naruto reached up and picked it up, ripped off the lid, and then, in a scene that could be compared to Popeye gorging on spinach and a Saiyan gorging on a senzu bean, he exploded out of his medical apparatus. "Wow, this is incredible. My goodness, it's unbelievable. I feel amazing. Indeed, indeed, indeed. I am capable of winning. I feel fantastic. I'm capable," shouted Naruto as he smirked before suddenly throwing his hands up in the air. "Yes. I've returned home. I'm still here. All of this is a miracle. I'm conscious. I'm completely awake." He suddenly vanished down the hall in blur, cackling madly. "Mwahahaha. Ha 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 ha. Little eagle, hold on, I'm coming." There was utter silence in the hall as everyone gaped in disbelief at Naruto's quickly disappearing form. When he turned to Junior, Vinny broke the silence by saying, "I'll have what he's having." After the journey to the Great Northwest, Team Possible found themselves clinging to the rocky face of a tall mountain hundreds of feet above the ground, with Naruto's watch beeping louder and louder as he ascended the cliff face. He shouted to his red-headed friend a few yards up and to his right, "We're right on top of it, KP. Where have you gone to hide?" Kim muttered as she searched the area but couldn't find any signs of the bird. "If we could just run up the damn cliff face, this would be a lot easier," Naruto muttered. "Wade, you must create anti-gravity boots." The video link showed Wade's face as he sneered, "I'm good, but I'm not that good." "How about those Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time hover boots?" Naruto made the suggestion. Wade sighed, "Unless you have some hidden formula on hand to balance Maxwell's equations, I think not." "The Pegasus boots from A Link to the Past." Naruto shot again into the darkness. Wade deadpanned, "Newton only made 3 laws. A pair of PF flyers." Naruto asked, scratching the back of his head. "Do you think this is 1950? An incredulous Wade said. "Why does it seem like you had a list of answers to these questions written down beforehand?" Naruto was deadpanned. Wade sighed, "You go off on the same tangent every time you watch reruns of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon." Naruto's eyes glowed and he said, "Oh yeah. Good old Spidey. It would have taken him less than a minute to complete this mission." "Wade, you ought to." "Naruto, pay attention," Kim shouted. The blonde complained, all right, as he extended his hand into the next mountain crevice, only to have a portion of it give way, exposing a tiny hole. Rufus. The bare-chested mole rat yawned as he jumped into the small space, crawled up Naruto's arm, and cleared out more loose rocks in a matter of seconds, revealing the small cave in which the eaglet was hiding before retreating back into the safe confines of Naruto's pocket. Kim and Naruto peered inside and discovered the eaglet resting at the back of the small opening, its left wing slightly damaged, having left it stranded. "I have you, little guy." When the pin holding Kim's rappelling rope came loose, she fell freely down the mountainside with Naruto. "Let's go get that wing of yours fixed up," Kim whispered as she reached in and took out the eaglet, the tracking beacon on its anklet identifying it as the one they were searching for. She then placed the baby bird in the pouch on her hip. Without hesitation, Naruto unbuckled his own line and jumped off the mountainside. Appearing to be a professional diver, Naruto twisted his body in midair, holding his legs to his head before launching himself into a natural dive shortly below Kim, who managed to gather herself during her fall and was about to pull the cord on her parachute. Naruto grabbed her and pulled her into a fireman carry before pulling his own chute. They glided safely the rest of the way down to the ground, Naruto making a smooth landing before disconnecting his parachute. When he put her on the ground, Kim pouted and said, "Thanks, but I could have pulled my own chute." Shrugging, Naruto said, "I just felt like having a little fun." "Figures." Kim simply shook her head. "Here as he is, all safe and sound," said Kim, showing them the baby eagle after a red park ranger pickup abruptly pulled up to them and a heavy-set black woman in a ranger uniform stepped out, giving them a stern look. With a kind grin, the park ranger said, "Today, you two saved a life. Fantastic work." The praise was dismissed by Kim, who said, "It was no big." In agreement, Naruto nodded and said, "It's what we do." Kim responded when the communicator beeped. "Wade, mission accomplished," exclaimed Kim with a salute. She then realized it wasn't Wade on the line. "Dad." James reprimanded Kim, saying, "You are in big trouble, little lady." Kim had missed family game night, the evening when the entire family gathers, you know. Kim said nervously, "It's still day here, I'm missing out, huh?" "Yes, and it's a shame for cousin Larry too, he'll be really disappointed," James said. "Don't be too mad at her, sir, she saved a life today," the park ranger said in an attempt to be more forgiving of her. "Your daughter is incredibly brave." James scratched the back of his head and sighed, "Yeah, she is something. Well, I'll let you off the hook this time. I suppose I'll have to go tell Larry the news." "Tell him I feel awful about it, Dad," Kim said, putting on her most miserable and melancholy expression. Before he hung up, Dr. Possible said, "I know you do, Kimmy." Kim exclaimed with delight, "Yes. Apologies, cousin, perhaps next time." The park ranger gave her a sly smile and said, "A total loser." Kim shivered uncontrollably and muttered, "You don't know the half of it, he's creepy." "You have been whining about Larry for, well, forever. What's wrong with him?" Naruto inquired. "Do you have the entire night?" Kim asked, putting an arm around his shoulder. Naruto stifled a yawn as he leaned against the lockers as Kim continued her absurdly long list of faults for her cousin. "At game nights he goes on and on about these creepy conventions where everyone dresses up. he could have sworn he dreamed that she was complaining about Larry, and when he woke up, she was calling him on his cell and carrying on where she left off. Are we discussing Comic Con? Naruto interrupted. That's actually cool, and it only happens once a year. Kim deadpanned. Larry attends at least 25 conventions a year. A look of horror flashed across Naruto's face, but he quickly shook it off and said, carry on. He is now playing this pointless game of fortresses. Kim grumbled. The last time, he told me everything there was to know about it for the entire duration. Ron's into that game, he told me it was pretty good. Naruto shrugged. Kim rolled her eyes, saying, it only supports my argument that your strange cousin enjoys it as well. Just because his motto is, never be normal, doesn't make him that weird, replied Naruto. Kim just gave him a raised eyebrow. After giving up, Naruto said, yeah, I got nothing. Wade said, I've got something. As he showed up on Kim's locker monitor, there's been a hit on the site from a Lord Monty Fisk. Kim responded, the world-famous archaeologist. Wade inquired, how did you know? Kim responded smugly, I saw a documentary about him on the Knowing channel. Sneering, Naruto said, and you have the nerve to call other people weird. As the printer printed the mission summary, Wade said, Lord Fisk has found the location of a rare artifact and he needs you guys to help him get it. Kim smiled as she read the paper and then showed it to Naruto, saying, sounds fun, who can give us a ride? Naruto's eyes brightened and he muttered, Cambodia. For this one, I have something. Above the jungles of Southeast Asia, the 142nd Paratrooper Division's black and gray stealth jet soared through the skies. The man in charge was saluted by Naruto, who said, thanks for the lift, Colonel. He was immediately saluted by his fellow blonde, who said, it's an honor and privilege after you saved my captured men by dosing the enemy camp with that sneezing and itching powder. Naruto let out a giggle, thank your old retired buddy, Colonel Briggs taught me everything I know at Tough Enough Summer Military Academy. The cadet next to him whispered, is it true you're behind the Nitro section added to the playbook? Naruto laughed, your security clearance isn't high enough for me to answer that question. You've been chomping at the bit to use that line, said Kim, rolling her eyes. The adolescent duo soon found themselves negotiating the dense undergrowth of a Cambodian jungle with Guns N' Roses blaring through his headphones. Kim took the lead, and Naruto trailed behind her. Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. We go everything you want, honey, we know the names, he said. Look, a monkey temple. Kim pointed up ahead, pulling out an earphone to get his attention before the blonde could launch into an air guitar solo. A short distance ahead of them were the recently found remnants of an ancient monkey temple, with the entrance shaped like a monkey's head. Naruto laughed. A monkey temple, oh man, Ron would be going absolutely bananas right now. His pun elicited a dry laugh from Kim soon after. Tumina, one tall and dark-haired, the other short and stockier, came up to them. The tall, dark-haired man said, I am Lord Monty Fisk, and this is my valet Bates, Kim Possible, I presume. Kim answered, this is my partner Naruto. This is so great, we're about to become legends of the Hidden Temple. Laughed Naruto. Legends of the Hidden Temple? Asked Fisk and Bates, looking at him bewildered. Come on, you know. The old game show, Kim and I were on it once. Naruto said, staring at him in disbelief. The redhead and blonde abruptly shook their fists and gave a funky secret handshake before yelling, Blue Barracudas. All at once. In through the storeroom, over the pit of despair, beneath the crypt and after the lair of Mandarin Hand, you will find the shrine of the Silver Monkey. Naruto's voice abruptly shifted into a dead-on impersonation of Olmec from the show. Fisk clarified, it's actually a jade monkey. Eyes narrowing, Naruto said, no, it's the shrine of the Silver Monkey. Before the argument could begin, Kim interrupted, saying, he's talking about the artifact. By pointing to a sizable rock formation in the upper left corner of the map, Fisk said, the jade statue is supposed to reside in here. What is that? Kim asked, pointing to the area of the map where 4 statues of monkeys were glowing together. Monty folded the map and put it in his pocket, explaining that, local legend says that placing this statue in precise alignment with 3 others will generate a mystical monkey power. Utter nonsense, of course. As Kim approached the temple entrance with Naruto, Naruto took out a quarter and said, call it in the air. Kim said with a sly smile, tails never fails. Except against me do I get a life pendants for the temple guardians? Naruto asked, grabbing the flipping coin as it was falling back down and slamming it onto the back of his hand to reveal George Washington's face. Everybody merely shot him a sardonic glance. As he entered, Naruto rolled his eyes and exclaimed, "Tough crowd hoa." On his second step, a trapdoor opened beneath him, sending him sliding down a secret passageway. "Wade, clock me," Naruto yelled while tapping his watch as he descended. The blonde landed in a high-ceiled, enclosed room, foot first. There was a big stone monkey head with a mouth that opened and closed mechanically on each of the 4 walls. Taking out his grappling gun out of instinct, Naruto fired straight up. As soon as he did, the walls began to close in on him, revealing the room's trap. He was drawn straight up through the surrounding walls by the grappling hook that was embedded in the ceiling far above the ground beneath him closed up just as his foot was about to escape. Then he made his way up a ladder through a room where spikes stuck out of the wall at random points. At last, the ascent came to an end at the start of a slender hallway that was bordered by more stone monkey heads. Naruto muttered, $20 on flaming arrows. As soon as he moved forward, concentrated blast fire erupted from the statue's mouths, and flaming arrows blasted from its eyes. With his head down, Naruto ran down the hallway, coming out of it unharmed. With a sneer, he said, "You'll have to do better than that to catch the fastest man in Middleton." The hallway came to an end at a flight of stairs that led to another monkey-headed opening on the following floor. When he got to the top step, he had to back off to keep from wailing straight into a pit of snarling snakes. The jade monkey statue was perched on a stone pedestal at the bottom of a pit of spikes that was reached by a drop just past the snake pit. Naruto smiled as he gassed the snakes with a stink bomb, used the grappling gun to swing over the pit safely, and then slowly lowered himself down beside the statue in the spike pit. "Someone call for an exterminator," he exclaimed. "Haha, the shrine of the jade monkey. No, it's just not the same. Silver monkey sounds way cooler," murmured Naruto. It abruptly tilted, sending Naruto sliding down another passage and landing him right back at the temple entrance where Kim, Naruto, and Bates were waiting. The spikes and statue pedestal all sank into the floor as soon as he picked it up, leaving it completely flat. As he and Bates hurried over to inspect the statue, Monty exclaimed, "Well done, Mr. Stoppable. I will make sure the museum recognizes your heroic efforts." "Yeah, sure, whatever. Wade, time." Naruto tapped his watch, showing no concern for them. The young genius answered, 2 minutes and 17 seconds. "Yes," said Kim, pumping her fist. Naruto said, "Oh, come on. There is no way." In shock, Wade sighed, "Sorry, Kim's record of 2 minutes and 15 seconds still stands." Naruto sighed, "Don't get too excited, Kim. You still lost us the legends of the hidden temple who goes through the crypt on the way out. You should have swung across the room and taken the top door. I wouldn't have mattered if someone didn't cost us a half pendant of life in the temple games," Kim laughed. Naruto shot back, "Don't try to pin that on me. It was Nick Arcade all over again. That was not my fault for the last time. The stupid game was rigged. The stupid temple too," screamed Kim angrily. Rolling his eyes, Naruto said, "Yeah, just like all the others." In the middle of the jungle, the group had made their camp for the night. Naruto and Kim were huddled in sleeping bags by the campfire, while Bates and Lord Fisk had their own tent. Something is up with that Fisk guy. The map, the mystical monkey mumbo jumbo, and the creepy way he was fondling the statue. Naruto was feeling uneasy. "He has a royal title and is a well-respected archaeologist, so let it go," said Kim, rolling over and huffing. He grumbled, "Which means absolutely nothing. Give me a credit card and you can be Lady Kim possible in under 48 hours. With a yawn, Kim said, "Whatever, just go to sleep." They both sat up, alert, when they heard rustling in the bushes. "Someone's here," Kim murmured. As they scanned the campsite, they noticed a hooded figure carrying the monkey statue come out of the tent. "Hooded ninja Datbeo," Naruto cried, his eyes full of stars. Rufus squeaked, "HNK. Yeah, he was in the same condition." With a shout, "He's getting away with the statue." Kim jumped out of her sleeping bag to confront their silent enemy. The ninja thief was able to stop Kim's attacks by avoiding and blocking her kung fu blows at every opportunity, even though he was holding the statue in one hand. Naruto chose to try to take advantage of the fact that the ninja were totally focused on Kim by launching a spinning kick from his blind spot in a single fluid motion. The hooded enemy grabbed Naruto's leg, threw him into Kim, and twisted out of the way at an almost impossible angle. The teenage pair became entangled in a heap of limbs and sleeping bags. As they tumbled across the ground, he dropped a smoke bomb and disappeared, leaving Kim and Naruto incapacitated. Naruto declared, "His smoke bomb disappearing skills are unparalleled. And he saw right thrown my new move." As she attempted to pull herself away from the blonde, Kim said sardonically, your new move needs a little work. When Kim unintentionally kneed Naruto in the crotch, he groaned in agony and said, hey, watch the knee. Sorry. The redhead winced. An elbow too, in the same spot. Come on. Give a guy break, he gasped as she moved in another direction. Kim added an apologetic, really sorry. Bates and Fisk had hurried from their tents to investigate the situation at Naruto's yell. So Monty said, what's all this then? Kim was told, the jade monkey was stolen. How terrible. The discovery must have made the news. Shouted Monty. Oh rot. If only your bravery was not wasted. With a shake of his head, Bates said, just a terrible tragedy, milord. Kim sighed in disappointment, and Naruto just squinted from where he was lying on the ground at what he thought was a pathetic performance by Lord Fisk and his associate. My Stoppable continued to glance at her strangely stoic son out of the corner of her eye as she sipped her morning coffee and flipped through her hospital case reports at the breakfast table. The blonde would frequently talk endlessly about whatever mission he and Kim had been on the night before during breakfast. She was about to inquire as to whether something was amiss when Naruto slurped the last of his cereal before yelling, Mom. Dad, I think I've uncovered a ninja conspiracy. Ow. Ninjas, I should have known. My moan, he only has one obsession that makes him act that way. He was walking by when his father slapped him across the back of the head with a rolled up newspaper and said, no conspiracy theories at the breakfast table. But there was a real ninja. And he was awesome, even better than me. And I think it's the Lord Fisk guy, Naruto said, grabbing his backpack and hurriedly following him out the door. As the door shut behind him, Mai merely grinned slightly and shook her head, saying, that boy. While her mother finished up at the stove, Kim sat down at the table and endured her father's usual morning interrogation at the possible home. James said, morning, honey. How was Cambodia? Kim sighed. Mixed results. Good news. Naruto retrieved a priceless historical artifact from a booby-trapped temple. Better news. My retrieval record is still intact. That a girl? James exclaimed. With a flipped smile, Kim said, then some hooded ninja stole it. James grunted. Well, that's just like those darn ninjas. Kim sighed in frustration, saying, Naruto seems to have some crazy theory that Lord Fisk is behind the whole thing. Tim sat down at the table with Jim and asked, is he? Kim laughed. He's both a respected lord and archaeologist. I doubt he's a master criminal. Ninjas are masters of deception and disguise. Perhaps the Lord Fisk is all front and he is the hooded ninja, Jim suggested. Did you miss the point where I said he was a respected lord? Asked Kim, rolling her eyes. Tim grumbled. Naruto found a way to buy that lord title on the net for 3 easy payments. James's eyes widened. Your principal was said to be departing away to England for the next month for some court of lordship ceremony. Boys. After glancing at Jim, Tim shrugged and said, we don't have the kind of allowance to waste on that elaborate a prank. James grinned and said, well, I do have some news that should cheer you up. Cousin Larry felt so bad about you missing out on family game night. Aunt June invited us all over for dinner Saturday. Her brothers had to duck under the kitchen table to avoid getting wet when Kim spat the orange juice she had been drinking across the table. When her daughter responded to the invitation, Anne arched an eyebrow. Between coughing fits, Kim stumbled, I wouldn't want to impose. Oh, it's no trouble at all. June says Larry never has any friends over, responded James. In a whisper, the 3 possible children said, I wonder why. So said, you don't have to allowance to waste on that kind of prank. You contracted it out to Naruto, didn't you? Reproved James. The twins disappeared from the table, shouting, look at the time. Gotta go. The news of Kim's return trip to Larryville left her feeling glum for the duration of the school day. Even a tasty after-school meal wasn't making her feel better. Kim picked at the fries in front of her and muttered, I can't believe I've been sucked back into Loserville. Do you have any sympathy for my situation, or are you content to just stuff your face? She asked, glancing up at Naruto across the table, who ignored her as he ate. Naruto appeared to be offended. Kim. It's Rocco's chicken and waffles. It's one of the 2 things in the world that tastes so good it makes you wanna slap you mama. Slap, was heard across the restaurant. The mother of the 7-year-old yelled, Charlie, as he gazed at her with a glassy look. When he regained his composure, the boy said, sorry, mommy. See, what I mean? Naruto joked. Kim was spared more foolishness by the communicator's handy beeping, what up Wade? Before Wade took a sip of his soda, he told him, I managed to pull up some more info on that jade monkey. The temple was one of 4 built by the followers of monkey kung fu. Each temple had a jade monkey. With a chuckle, Naruto said, "Monkey Kung Fu." "Seriously?" nodded Wade. "Seriously, according to legend, when the 4 statues were assembled together, they gave the warriors a mystical monkey power." Wade displayed a symbol on the communicator, which Kim recognized. "That's the same symbol from the map that Lord Fisk had, but why separate the monkeys?" Kim asked. "They didn't want just anybody walking in and grabbing the mystical monkey power up. That would just be plain irresponsible," laughed Naruto. "Maybe the thief believed the legend," Kim thought. Naruto laughed. "It could be more than a legend on our weird scale. Mystical monkey power rates is like a 4 out of 10. Bates. Bates. A chime sounded, announcing tea time, as Lord Fisk sat across the pond, leafing through a manuscript in his study. "Coming, milord," exclaimed Bates as he carried a tray containing a freshly brewed pot of tea into the study's hallway. "I think it may have been a mistake calling in those teenagers to aid in the retrieval of the jade monkey. Surely you could have handled those primitive traps, if that young lad could." Monty poured himself a cup of tea and said, "Yes, I could have, but that's not the point. Masquerading as the ninja created a false trail for anyone trying to track down the statue." When Bates pulled down on a candlestick next to the fireplace, he revealed a secret passageway behind it. "If you think that is for the best, milord," he said. The recently recovered jade monkey statue was situated off to the side of the short tunnel, which led to a secret lair with 3 monkey statues arranged in a square alignment. After throwing away his robe, Fisk was wearing a red and black martial arts uniform with a sash with the fur-like hair on his hands and feet and the pronation of his extremities that had been changed to make him more like a monkey. His peculiar physiology was now clearly visible. Monty posed and exclaimed, "Mystical monkey power is now mine." Bates continued, "Well, you mean that figuratively, of course." When he asked, "What do you mean figuratively?" Monty arched an eyebrow. Bates responded, "Well, that old legend is completely ludicrous." Ludicrous. As ludicrous as it was to spend the family fortune to become an abomination of science, a man-monkey. Fished Fisk. "It's a bit of a leap of faith, but ludicrous. Put the monkey in place and see for yourself." Wade dropped another bombshell back at Rocco's. Wade smirked and said, "Lord Monty Fisk is the foremost authority on all things simian." Naruto sighed, "Oh, come on. Don't tell me it's that obvious. Ron's monkey phobia could have really come in handy on this one." "What are you talking about?" asked a bewildered Kim. "I've created another arch foe." Naruto began hammering his head against the table. "Fisk. He's behind the whole thing. I bet this was all a setup so he could get the mystical monkey power, and I just happened to be the one to retrieve the statue. Perhaps we should have a conversation with the man this weekend, before we start labeling him the next great supervillain," Kim suggested. "Oh, man," she said, recalling her weekend's fate. "I have to DP the Larry thing on Saturday." Wade said, "Can't you bail?" "Yeah, just flake." Naruto nodded in agreement. "Use the mission excuse again." Kim moaned. All options for flaking and bailing were denied. Wade hinted, "What if you could be in 2 places at once?" A second Kim approached their table and said, "Perhaps I could be of some assistance." Wade exclaimed, "I give you the Hollow Kim. She's just primed for a field test." Hollow Kim practiced. "Really, Larry?" "That's fascinated Larry. Nice costume, Larry." After practicing, "I wonder if all the proportions are," Naruto said, extending a straying hand in the direction of the Hollow Kim. Kim instantly stopped that line of thought by swatting his straying hand away and saying, "No." "But I was only," Naruto begged. "No," Kim said again. "You're no fun," sulked Naruto. "The virtual flake is tempting, but I think I'll pass, I promised Dad," Kim said, shaking her head. Naruto exclaimed, "No worries, Kim Wade, it's time to initiate the D-team." Rufus agreed, squeaking, "Yeah. D-team, D-team." Kim asked him, looking perplexed. "Believe me, Kim, you really don't want to know," Wade said, shaking his head. Saturday arrived swiftly, and as Lord Fisk's castle was getting ready for his mystical ascension, the doorbell rang. Bates screamed, "Coming, coming," and rushed to answer the doorbell when a quintet of male teenagers showed up at his door. The short Englishman was taken aback. He was unable to recall the name of one of them, but he recognized it. Bates said, "Who are you again?" "The Vin Man," was the victory sign flashed by the person on the far left. "Big Mike." A loud thud was produced as the big man on the far right hammered his fists on the sidewalk. The long-haired blonde to the left of center flipped his hair and exclaimed, "Junior." Instead, the fourth, wearing a sombrero, suddenly pulled out a burrito and took a single bite, exclaiming, El Rondo. When Naruto finally made it to the center, he performed some sick break dance moves before declaring, Captain Naruto. With a big smile and a thumbs up. Together we are the detention force. They all exclaimed at that point. The what? Gates asked them, looking puzzled. They yelled, the detention force. Once more. A perplexed Bates asked, why are you here? We've got a couple questions for your employer, the expert of all things simian, stated Naruto. The word, simian, made Ron freeze. When Bates' eyes widened, he said, now, I recognize you. Your lad who retrieves the jade monkey. Very good job with those traps. Naruto, you didn't say anything about monkeys. Ron said, squinting at his cousin. Naruto comforted him, saying, no real monkeys, only a monkey statue. Aw man, bad road, bad road, bad road. Ron said, grabbing at the edges of his sombrero and pulling them down. Junior asked, what's the big deal about monkeys? While picking his nose. Ron is the cousin I rescued from the monkey cabin in Camp Wanoweep. His phobia is understandable, explained Naruto. He just keep flinging it everywhere. Ron said as he fell to the ground, rocking back and forth. The others went pale and gave him a pitying look, saying, very bad road. With a shake of his head, Bates said, how unfortunate, follow me, I shall announce your presence. At the moment, back in America, Kim wished she had stones to flake out and replace herself with the hollow Kim. This is Othar's cousin Balthazar, you can be his character, Larry said, taking another figurine from the shelf. Really Larry, return to loss is just so fascinating, Kim said, beaming at him. True, but I suddenly have the urge to play a little fortress, want to cheat code to level 9. Replied Larry. Sounds great Larry, said Kim, her smile beaming as broadly as it could. Monty said, ah, Naruto stoppable, thanks for your work retrieving the jade monkey. Bates led the 5 teenagers into his study. The word monkey made Ron shudder. With an eyebrow raised, Monty asked, what's wrong with him? He's got a monkey phobia, Naruto shrugged. With a smile, Monty said, oh really, he yelled, monkey. Monkey, monkey, as he leapt into Ron's face. Ah, Ron cried out, ease up there tall, dark, and hairy, lay off El Rondo, that's just not cool now, I got a few questions for you about, Naruto said, stepping between them. Fisk interrupted, saying, so, you know all about my little obsession with Tai Shing Pek Quer. Tai Chu what no? Junior asked. You're going to play dumb, is that it? Tai Shing Pek Quer, monkey kung fu? Monty yelled. With a deadpan expression, Vinny asked, why didn't you just say monkey kung fu? Monkey kung fu. A hidden art rooted in all things evil, bad road, said Ron. Everyone followed Monty as he opened his secret passageway and walked through it, ignoring them. Junior muttered, is it just me, or does this guy walk like a monkey? When they arrived at the hidden room with the statues, Monty declared, I can do much more than that, and yanked off his robe, exposing his martial arts GI, before hammering his chest like a primate. Bad road, bad road, bad road. He walks like a monkey, plus the fur on hands and feet. He's some kind of freakish man monkey. Ron was about to lose it. Fisk jumped between the 4 jade statues and exclaimed, yes. I spent the family fortune on these enhancements. All for this moment. He began to laugh. It sounded like a combination of a real monkey's laugh and an evil laugh. The statue's eyes emitted yellow beams of energy that lifted the mad archaeologist into the air and surrounded him in a yellow glow. Fisk screamed, bowed down to my power. As the glow subsided and he fell to the ground in a monkey kung fu position, I am Monkey Fist. Avoiding a pellet of foul-smelling gas from Naruto's gas cannon, the genetically modified man-monkey calmly cocked his head to the side. The blonde fired off a series of additional rounds in quick succession from the semi-automatic weapon, and Fist deftly dodged each one before catching the final one in midair and crushing it in his mouth. He smirked and mockingly said, a bit salty for my tastes. The boys were incredulous. He ate the stink. Let out a disbelieving Vinny. The words, that's not right man, left Junior speechless. I'd expect nothing less from this heinous incarnation of evil, said Ron. If you can eat your own stink, you can eat any stink. Bad road, bad road, bad road, Naruto and Big Mike exclaimed, channeling their inner Ron. The Monkey Master said, now that you all know my secret, it's time for you to die. Naruto took off his watch and threw it to Vinny, saying, I'll stall for some time. Call Wade. I need to know how to stop this guy. Fist easily deflected Naruto's flying spinning kick before he struck the genetically and monkey mojo enhanced Super Freak, sending him crashing into a stack of antique vases. Monkey Fist was clearly ahead, but the blonde recovered from the attack quickly and jumped back into the fray. The blonde was always on the defensive due to Fist's unconventional kung fu style, which was heightened by the mystical power-up. The blonde was only able to block crucial blows that would have swiftly ended the battle. As he jumped to dodge Fist's sweeping kick, Naruto thought, I could really go for a tag team with Kim right about now. Junior yelled, Yo, brain dude, we need help over here. This monkey fool got some kinda power-up and is talking it to the boss man, said Vinny. I know, I've been monitoring, but there's not much I can do from here. He's immune to stink gas. That's never happened before, replied Wade. Kim had started watching the Learning Channel documentary on her communicator to learn more about Lord Fisk while Larry tore through level after level of Fortress. Larry got up from the computer desk and said, Hey, is that real-time streaming video? Yeah, Kim said, waving him away, a knowing channel documentary nothing you'd be interested in. On the contrary, I've been following the career of Lord Monty Fisk for quite some time now. He's one of the few living masters of Tai Shing Pek Quor, responded Larry. Tai what? Kim asked, staring at him blankly. Monkey Kung Fu, Larry clarified while adjusting his spectacles. Monkey Kung Fu. Larry grabbed the communicator out of this place, and Kim's eyes widened in surprise. He was the ninja. Naruto's hunch was right all along. Larry was tinkering with the communicator when he asked, Can you play games on this thing? Hello, Bowser to the command center? Kim grabbed it from him as it began to make amusing beeping sounds and said, Give me that. She said, Wade. Lord Monty Fisk stole that icon, as soon as she called Wade. Wade answered, I know, I think he believes in mystical monkey power, Kim said. Wade acknowledged, he has mystical monkey power. Wait, what? Kim interrupted her thought process. Fisk already gained the mystical monkey power, and proved the legend true. He now calls himself Monkey Fist right now. Naruto is going toe-to-toe with him and losing badly, told Wade. He went alone. Without any backup, Kim scowled at him. He has backup. Ron and the D crew are with them, but in this case they aren't much help, Wade said, raising his hands in a conciliatory gesture. Kim continued to stare. This was your big Team D plan. What are we going to do now? If I was there we could double team him, but now I don't know what to do. Larry interrupted, all hope is not lost, Kim. I have an idea. This isn't one of your video games, Larry. Right now my best friend is getting beaten by a kung fu mutant with bioengineered hands and feet, and mystical monkey powers. And, Kim then realized what she had just said. What do you got? Wade, you must know how to beat level 9 of Fortress to beat the Cloud Guardian, started Larry. Wade picked up on, you must drink from his enchanted well. Brilliant, I'll pass it on. An irritated Kim asked, how is that supposed to help? Larry said with a sly smile, it's a geek thing. Business at the Fisk mansion was beginning to improve. Bates picked up a staff and decided to help tilt the odds even more in his lord's favor. However, Big Mike blocked his way before he could enter the battle hesitantly. Bates glanced up at the big teen, who smiled down at him and said, hee, let's play thud. Bates moaned, ooh, pain, as he was knocked unconscious and flew across the room into a wall. Naruto was being dissected by the monkey kung fu master. He struck the blonde in the solar plexus, then rolled into a double kick to the face, grabbed him with his feet, and gave him a hard landing. Fist made taunting monkey noises as he jumped back and pounded his chest. Guys, tell Naruto to go for the mystical monkey power himself, told Wade. The blonde got up and wiped away the drop of blood that was dripping from the corner of his mouth before they could relay the message. Naruto asserted that, sometimes, to beat the man, you gotta be the man. Junior added, or in this case Monkey. Naruto reached down, knocked Monkey Fist off balance, and yanked back on the oriental rug that lined the floor. The blonde headed straight for the jade monkey alignment. As she poured on the speed, Fist became aware of what he was going to do as he hit the ground. Fist screamed, no, mystical monkey power is mine alone. Not anymore. Naruto yelled as he jumped into the middle of the alignment, and the statue's eyes emitted yellow beams that surrounded him in a yellow glow. The infiltration of mystical monkey power into Naruto's body caused an odd reaction deep within his subconscious. Oddly, the teen's subconscious manifested as a power plant sub-level, complete with pipes running across the ceiling and walls and water soaking the floor. All of this led to a huge cage that was kept closed by a tiny piece of seal paper covering the lock. The flow of some of the pipes was previously restricted by a stone barrier a short distance in front of the cage, but the mystical monkey power had flooded through all of the pipes and destroyed the barrier, making everything accessible. A deep voice behind the cage grunted, "Who the fuck is trying to wake me up?" A huge set of slitted red eyes opened with a displeased expression. It struck a red tail against the cage as it saw the yellow glow engulfing the pipes. The mystical monkey power was overtaken by a massive surge of blue energy that swept through the pipes after the seal abruptly reacted and leaked a surge of red energy from the tail. The beast closed its eyes and mumbled, "Fucking bullshit, I'm going back to sleep. Don't wake me up for another century." Unbeknownst to everyone, 8 blue glowing symbols materialized on Naruto's abdomen. In the real world, the yellow glow of the mystical monkey power was overtaken by a blue energy surge that pulsed from the symbols. Naruto fell to the ground, surrounded by a blue aura, and the monkeys ceased using their mystical power. As Junior gaped at the scene before him, he asked, why did he get a blue mystical monkey power? Vinny proposed, perhaps blue monkey power is comparable to level 2 monkey power. Wade frantically typed at his computer, searching for an explanation, and muttered over the link, "I don't think that's mystical monkey power at all." Naruto turned abruptly to face Fist and smiled. He disappeared and then resurfaced in front of the monkey kung fu master, who then used an uppercut to send him flying. Naruto boasted, "Try that on for size Mojo Jojo," as Fist slammed into a wall. "Ooh! Powerpuff burn," Junior teasingly exclaimed. "This really isn't mystical monkey power," Monty said, jumping back to his feet and appearing to be undamaged. "It doesn't fit me, whatever it is." "You just caught me off guard," Fist said, returning to the Tai Shing Pek War opening stance. "Now that I've seen the true extent of your abilities, it is quite evident you are no match for a monkey master." In response, Naruto merely gestured to his opponent, saying, "Bring it on, Chuckles." "You exclaimed Fist as he sprang into action, making the most of his monkey agility. He launched a barrage of kicks and punches from angles that were impossible for a primate to handle. To his astonishment, Naruto consistently evaded him with an enraged smirk on his face. The blonde would stealthily move out of the way at the last second for each blow the monkey master delivered. Fist attempted to use a specific vicious combination, and when he finally delivered a strong blow to Naruto's chest, the self-assured teenager disappeared in a cloud of smoke, leaving his foot stuck to a log. "What the hell was that?" Ron and the other members of the D crew cried out. Fist smashed the log into splinters out of rage, then turned to search for Naruto. Monty growled, "Come out, you coward." He had no idea that Naruto had been standing directly behind him the entire time, precisely recording his movements. How? Fist turned around as he heard a tap on his shoulder and Neilry fell on his ass in shock. A casual, "Hi there, nice day," was Naruto's greeting. Fist snarled in exasperation and swung a fist that Naruto easily sidestepped before launching the monkey man into another wall crash with a left-handed haymaker. "This is impossible. I am a master of monkey kung fu and the wielder of mystical monkey power. I should be invincible," Fist said, pulling at his hair in frustration. As Fist charged him once more, Naruto thought, "Let's finish this." With a savage roundhouse kick and a twisted body, Fist roared, "I will not fall to some upstart fraud." Before launching himself forward with a flying kick of his own, Naruto jumped back to avoid it using Naruto's momentum. Monty stepped aside and threw him against a wall after adjusting himself in midair. Naruto leapt off the wall and hit Fist, stunning the monkey master with a forceful headbutt. Junior screamed, "Now that's what I call using your head." Naruto leaned back to dodge the clumsy chop that the staggered Fist swung out before spinning into a strong spin kick that sent Monkey Fist flying. In order to get high above Fist, he bounced off the nearby wall and performed a vicious spinning healing drop on the monkey master's chest. Fisk and the floor collided violently as a result, and Fisk lost consciousness. As Naruto walked towards them, Junior exclaimed, "Dude, where did you bust out those moves from?" Naruto laughed. "You didn't think surprise attacks was all there was to my dynamic style of fighting, did you?" All he got in return were 3 blank stares. "I tell you, I get no respect," Naruto grunted. A smile spread across their faces. Junior joked, "Duh, we got you." Vinny said, "But seriously, how did you do that log thing?" Naruto sighed, "I don't know with that mystic mojo stuff, I just kind of knew how to do it on instinct." The crew gave him a friendly teasing, and as they headed for the door, Naruto saw that Ron was not joining in on the post-battle celebrations. "Yo, Ron, let's go," Naruto exclaimed as he gazed at the arrangement of the 4 jade monkeys. The freckled blonde remained silent, as if in a trance. Naruto yelled, "Ron, El Rondo, free bueno nacho," but to no avail. They were all shocked by what transpired next. Ron said, "Monkeys, you will no longer have any control over me. I will use your own powers against you," as he charged into the center of the formation, using the ethereal monkey mojo to gain strength. "Oh, yeah, come to Papa." As he experimented with a few experimental punches and kicks, Ron muttered, "You know, I don't really feel that much different." Regretfully, he broke a jade monkey when one of his kicks unintentionally knocked it to the ground. "Oh, man, I broke the monkey mojo." The Rufus brothers, who had somehow remained asleep through the entire night, waved briefly to one another before falling back asleep in bueno nacho. Eating multiple times your body weight tended to put a Rufus into a hibernation cycle that lasted for several days before they left for the land of dreams. No one noticed the fleeting yellow glow in their eyes. Big Mike gave him some wise counsel. "You've overcome your fear if you can summon the bravery to submit to mystical monkey power." Junior said with a nod, "Right on, no doubt," Vinny concurred. As he left the castle, the blonde with the spiky hair laughed, "If you just cost me superpowers, I have a brand new phobia for you to worry about, mwahahaha." After giving Ron a pitying glance, Vinny, Big Mike, and Junior trailed behind Naruto. The only reaction he received was more crazed laughter when he said, "Naruto, it was an accident. I swear. Come on. I'll buy you ramen. 10 bowls, 20 bowls. All you can eat? Aw, man. Here it goes." Following the major commotion involving Monkey Fist, the detention force quickly returned across the pond. Naruto and Ron ended up going to Larry's house to join Kim. It looks like Naruto's plan to torture his cousin with Larry's special kind of torture didn't work out. "You won't believe the debates that raged when I posted my version of the battle on the fan site," told Larry. "Am I boring you?" "This is so incredibly dull," Naruto and Kim thought. Ron said, "No, please, go on. This is interesting stuff." Larry said, "You want to see outtakes from Moon Beyond IOs? The deleted footage from the Shrieker race?" Ron asked, his eyes brightening. Larry adjusted his glasses and said, "I got it at the '07 Tulsa convention." "Score." Ron pumped his fist in exclamation. "You guys want to hang and watch?" he asked, turning to face Kim and Naruto. Scratching his chin, Naruto said, "What's the phrase I'm looking for? None chance?" "None chance?" Larry asked, raising an eyebrow. Nodded. "So far beyond no chance, there was never a chance. None chance." Kim laughed. "Yeah, no can do. There's an X-Files marathon with our names on it." "Sweet." Naruto pumped his fist as the two friends left Larry's room. Naruto said, "You know, that show is like they took our lives and went fast forward about 15 years. As their cousins departed, Ron and Larry merely shook their heads and muttered, "Dorks." Naruto whispered, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." As he left the guidance counselor's office, the blonde complained as he slunk down the hall. "More extracurricular activities? Isn't tagging along with Kim to half the stuff she does enough? Plus, I save the world on a weekly basis. Doesn't that count for something?" He was about to throw the new recommendations for his extracurricular activities in the garbage when Kim rounded the corner and stepped in front of him. Kim was practically beaming as she described how wonderful her session was. "You're finished already? That was quick. We should be able to make it just in time for story time at the hospital. The counselor loved all my extracurricular at my session." "This must be the damn standard that guy is holding me to," said Naruto, shaking his head. "I'm not doing nearly as well as she is. She is insane." In his "I'm paying attention even though I'm not paying attention" mode, he let his thoughts stray to his covert activities to develop his new abilities. To put it mildly, things weren't going well. Rewind. Naruto and the D crew had gathered at Middleton's former auto salvage yard, Wade's chosen testing location. Naruto intended to use the defunct gas station next to the former salvage yard as a covert hiding place. Wade shot the idea down, reminding him that a secret hideout was unnecessary because his saving the world activities were not that secret. 15 minutes later, Naruto's counterproposal of a headquarters rather than a hideout reignited the idea. When Vinny thought he saw an old Dodge Charger, the entire line of thought was lost. Grunting and clenching his teeth, Naruto stood trying to summon the energy from within. He appeared to be severely constipated overall. Wade admitted, "This isn't working. Maybe you need to try something different." Naruto joked angrily, "What? Do you have a mystical monkey power handbook just lying around somewhere that I don't know about?" Wade said, "No, but this obviously isn't working." Junior suggested, "Maybe you try those weird monkey poses that guy was doing." The suggestion caused everyone to perspire. "What? If it worked for the monkey dude, it could work for you too," said Junior. Naruto deadpanned. Do I look like some kind of freakish man monkey to you? Well, remember in science class when, Junior said thoughtfully. With a groan and a frustrated shake of his head, Vinny said, just quit while you're ahead, man. Superpower experimentation is tabled for now. Wade added to your research pile when you get some free time, said Naruto. Big Mike declared, the brain trust meeting is now in session. With an incredulous expression, Junior asked his friends, brain trust? I thought we were the D crew? We added Wade in an official capacity at least on a part-time basis, told Vinny. Wade's not a detention sort of guy, so we've been upgraded to a brain trust, explained Naruto. The four other men all laughed when he said, sweet, I've always wanted to be a part of a brain trust. What? It's a noble aspiration. Oh man. He even busted out the SAT words, Vinny said, pounding his fist against the floor. Flash forward, Ron Stoppable was now terrified of the Konnichiwa ramen bill that would undoubtedly be incurred the next time Naruto visited him because of the acute lack of mystical monkey powers. When Kim finally changed the topic of her counseling session midway to the hospital, Naruto sighed with relief. Her rambling turned to Josh Mankey, which annoyed him. She had gotten lucky during history and was paired with Bonnie rather than Josh for their projects. Fortunately, she got a call on the communicator, but it was Terra, which caused more giggling and Mankey babbling. Naruto had nothing against the man. It was just that the mere mention of his name made Kim's mind go mushy. He allowed his thoughts to stray to other crucial ideas, such as the necessity of having Rufus go Caddyshack on Duff Killigan the next time they saw him after some time. His thoughts settled on a particular dark-haired cheerleader he had been seeing frequently at lunch lately and who, fortunately, became his project partner. He sighed wistfully. Regretfully for him, Kim had just hung up with Terra. Hope that the Konnichiwa ramen all-you-can-eat Sundays never goes away. He quickly changed after realizing the important information he had just let slip. Kim simply looked at him doubtfully and said, right. The two eventually headed to the hospital's pediatrics wing. They discovered both of their mothers conversing outside the patient's room as they made their way down the hall to the play area for the patients. Kim said, hi mom, hi Mrs. P. Naruto said, hey Mrs. S, hey mom. How cute. Mai rolled her eyes at their cheek. Anne laughed and said, the kids have been a little extra giddy today, waiting to see you. It would make sense that you two would fit in with a bunch of 6 and 7-year-olds, Mai laughed. The children like to play and laugh with us, Naruto said abruptly, pointing his fingers and shaking his hips while adopting a silly accent to match his dancing. That is why we tell them our wacky world-saving stories, Kim added. Naruto started, because we are, they yelled, the wild and crazy guys, together. After shaking her head, Anne said, and to think they used to be so cute when they were younger. Mai smirked and continued, then they grow up to these monstrous things known as teenagers. Naruto and Kim exchanged glances before blowing raspberries at their moms at the same time. You two, Anne started. Here are the court results. A young, black-haired male intern interrupted her as he bounded down the hallway holding some slides. The intern started to follow Mai after she grabbed the slides and entered the patient's room with Anne, but the red-haired surgeon interrupted, saying, we're still waiting on those EKG results. The door slammed in front of the young doctor, causing his head to drop. He sighed and turned around, slinking back down the hallway. Kim said, we'll give you one important piece of advice because you're new. He stopped, asking, what's that? Wherever you go in life, always beware Johnny the tackling the Alzheimer's patient, Naruto said gravely. Huh? The intern asked, turning around with a puzzled look. Who am I? Exclaimed the young doctor as a brown-haired man in a hospital gown suddenly jumped out of the room across the hall and collided with him. Interns, Kim and Naruto rolled their eyes together. Kim asked, are you even listening to me? As she threw a French fry at Naruto. Since Mai was working an evening shift, the two were waiting for Anne to give them a ride home while they munched on snacks and worked on their homework in the cafeteria. After the fry bounced off Naruto's forehead, Rufus scurried after it. Yes, you're detailing the wonderful life of an overachiever. You are the Dabbeo of Middleton High. Congratulations, sighed Naruto. With a sigh of frustration, Kim said, a slacker like you could stand to add on a few extracurricular activities for your college application. Naruto sighed. I have been granted a body with absolutely freakish athleticism. Colleges will be fighting over me tooth and nail to have the next grade 2 sports star. My college application will be a highlight tape. Kim shot back, last time I checked, you only run track. Naruto answered, and next year I'll be playing football. Kim asked sardonically, When did you make this startling new discovery that you were football material? Naruto sighed. It's not new. Both Waldo Jackson and Arnie Thomas ran track for 2 years before taking over as the start wideouts on varsity as juniors. Barkin has been doing it that way for years. When they graduate this year, Phillips and yours truly are next in line. Well, that's next year, so that means you have time to help out the charity benefit with me on Thursday, replied Kim. Where on earth did she sign up for all of this? Naruto thought. Yeah, sorry, but no can do. My schedule is booked for Thursday. With an eyebrow lift, Kim said, oh, yeah, booked with what? He glanced around when he saw Anne walking into the cafeteria and signaling to them that it was time to leave. Naruto blurted, taking Hope out on a date. Shotgun. Before he snatched Rufus and his belongings and ran out the door. For a few moments, Kim sat there, utterly stunned. The stunned redhead murmured, who? What? When? How? Hey, you get back here. My mom's car. Wait a minute. You're not getting off the hook that easily. On the ride home, Kim's inner gossip was let loose to the fullest, attacking Naruto from every side in an attempt to learn more. Before they left the hospital, Naruto had successfully resisted all types of questioning regarding the bomb of information he had dropped on her. Before clamming up once more, he only revealed that Hope was the one who had asked him out when they got home, and Naruto bounded out of the car like the hounds of hell were chasing him. Anne, who had barely been able to control her laughter the entire way, lost it. This isn't funny, Mom. He managed to sneak this right under my nose without me suspecting a thing, yelled Kim. Anne laughed. I think it's cute that Naruto's found himself a girlfriend. One date does not a girlfriend make. Kim glared at her mother. A sly smile formed on Anne's lips as she said, looks like someone is a little jealous. Yes, I am. Anne exclaimed, her eyes widening. The farthest I got with Josh was going to the dance, yet somehow Naruto has leapt into the world of full-fledged dating already. It's not fair. Pulling out her cell phone, Anne called her husband and muttered, that wasn't what I meant by jealous. I guess everything is a competition to you. Hey, hun, calling in a pizza for dinner. Any topping requests? As he leaned back and put his hand down on the launch lever for the rocket he was working on in the lab, James said absently, well, you can never go wrong with bacon. As the rocket took off, alarms went off, but he ignored them and continued speaking to Anne. I guess I'll be seeing you in 30 minutes or less. Anne said slyly, and what do I get for free if you're late? Which made James smile. Well, I've been told I have magic hands. Oh. Gotta go. The rocket launch's blaring alarms finally registered. His phone rang again. Hello? As he started working to evaluate the damage to the launched rocket. Possible. Your old pal Bob Chen here. Did you just launch a rocket over there? Replied Bob. On the QT Bob, prototype G6 rocket. Yep, she went up like a beauty, replied James. Too bad she wasn't supposed to go up until next Thursday. Lean on a button again. Bob laughed, shaking his head. James said, Roger that, Bob. So, we'll see you at the class reunion next weekend? Asked Bob. Affirmative on that. Oh. Looks like the military is surrounding my rocket. Better hop off, responded James. Bob laughed and hung up. See ya at the reunion, buddy, he said, same old possible. When he turned in his chair and saw 3 shadowy figures with bright red eyes encroaching on him, his laughter was interrupted. Ah! The astronomer cried after cheerleader practice the following day. Kim took care to avoid looking at Hope. Her incapacity to suppress her inner gossip had unintentionally unleashed Bonnie's full wrath on the girl with the dark hair. She insisted that they had an image to uphold and would not allow Naruto to have any relationships with any members of the squad. Bonnie said, you cannot carry out this, Hope. Hope sighed. There is no rule that says that I can't go out with the school's resident track star. Bonnie snarled, this is not Data dead last week. Actually, he's moved up in the class rankings to almost at the middle of the pack, told Tara. Well, you're lowering the standards of the squads by dating someone so middle of pack in terms of popularity, said Bonnie. Tara dismissed it. Actually, he's top 10 now on the category of name recognition alone. He's number 1 in the school. His Facebook fan page is even more popular than Kim's. Their captain looked at that and exclaimed, what? He's planning on getting a Twitter account too, said Hope with a sly smile. If it wasn't for the fact that he started with a mediocre ranking, he'd be 3rd in the school behind Josh and Brick, stated Tara. Bonnie, who was frustrated, demanded, how do you know all of this? Tara was blushing. Well, I'd been doing a little research, and if Hope hadn't asked him out. You've got to be kidding me. Has the whole world gone insane? Exclaimed Bonnie, incredulously. Liz said, way to get on the ground floor, Hope, and gave Hope a high five. Help me out here, Kim, said Bonnie, who was becoming desperate. There's no way he should have more Facebook friends than me. You must have been looking at our shared page, said Kim, ignoring her as she sat down beside Tara with her communicator in hand. Kim sighed as she hung up the communicator, saying, that poor boy has lost his mind. Yes, I know she's awesome, she's terrific. I'm trying to eat dessert here. I'll call you back later, bye. Looking across the dinner table at her daughter, Anne said, Kim, I don't think it could have gone that bad. It's not that Mom, the date went great. Hope texted Liz, who texted me before Naruto even called. He was going on and on about him. Rickrolling her is what got her to ask him out, screamed Kim. Rickroll? Is that some new slang? James asked, confused. No dad, it's an internet prank. That takes you to a Rick Astley video on YouTube. I bet Naruto is rickrolling himself right now, said Kim, shaking her head with a hint of annoyance. As Mai passed her son's room, she froze when she noticed Naruto using a chopstick as a microphone and wrapped in a towel through his partially cracked door. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around. Trying to instantly suppress the memory, she sighed and said, at least I didn't catch watching porn again. No, maybe that would have been better. Rick Astley. Now, that doesn't sound like a prank to me. It sounds like good honest fun, said James. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. Kim interrupted him. Dad, focus please. I don't think I can take any more of him going on and on and on and on. You get the picture. Kim's shoulders were slumped. Well, no, but that's because he can do that thing where he's listening to me, but not actually listening to me. My mind isn't that easily distracted. Anne sighed. The price of having a male best friend, I guess you'll just have to deal. Well, having best friends of male variety in my younger days, perhaps I can relate a little better. Back in the days of the big science department mixer, my posse and I, said James. Kim glared at him. Posse? Really? James replied. Yes, we were the biggest group of brains on campus. Now, as I was saying, we were all counting on our friend Drew to find us all dates. We were on the edge of seats as he walked in through that door, and you know what he brought with him. What? Kim raised an eyebrow. 3 robots that could barely have passed for vacuum cleaners. He dressed them up with dresses and wigs and called them bebis, responded James. Kim burst out laughing, unable to control herself. James giggled. Yep, that was our reaction too. We laughed long and hard. Drew dropped out after that and we never saw him again. I don't think he ever forgave us, and deep down I don't think we ever forgave ourselves either. Kim said, for just a fit of giggles. James nodded. No, when I say we laughed long and hard, I mean for days, almost a week, and with reckless youthful abandon. In our defense, it was simply too funny. I guess I should consider myself lucky that I'm friends with boy who can get a real date instead of resorting to desperate measures, Kim reasoned. Exactly, James said without understanding how either situation could possibly be related to the other. Anne simply glanced back and forth between her husband and daughter. Dealing with Middleton's new couple was not as terrible as Kim had expected. She discovered that there was a lot of laughter mixed in with the puke-worthy mushy moments while she was eating lunch with Liz, Hope, and Naruto. Both of them had a broad, frequently obscene sense of humor. It's nice to be having lunch, but I don't think you've been to D Hall all week, replied Hope. Naruto dismissed her worries. Nah, Vinny and Big Mike can handle it just fine now. I lately only been tagging along when I don't have anything better to do. Hope inquired. What about Junior? Rufus is training Junior in the art of stealth and espionage, said Naruto. It's kind of funny. Watch this, Junior. Naruto called the name of his fellow blonde and then blew a sharp whistle. The lid of the garbage can next to Bonnie's table suddenly lifted, exposing Junior, who had Rufus on his shoulder. With everyone but Naruto staring at him in confusion, Junior said, yeah, boss? Put a hold on this weekend's operation. Use the supplies for the same thing. Just on 6th period girls' gym. They're using the pool, told Naruto. Junior said, Roger that, as he and Rufus fell back into the garbage can. With a longing sigh, Naruto said, good, OL garbage network. Hope asked him, what's going on with 6th period girls' gym? With narrowed eyes. She picks things up quickly, man. Kim thought in a whisper. Naruto said into her ear, well, that's Bonnie's gym period. Kim told me how Bonnie was giving you the 3rd degree yesterday, so I figured it was only fair. Hope exclaimed, oh, as Naruto shared his scheme, then settled into a smirk that was aimed at Bonnie after whispering a few things into Naruto's ear. The cunning but evil Naruto gave her a tongue-long kiss in return. Fortunately for Kim, the sight of Josh in the cafeteria line diverted her attention from the mushy moment. Later that day, as Bonnie was doing her laps, a couple of chocolate bars tainted with the stench of stink gas somehow made their way into the pool before the day was over. The tape of Coach Summer's humiliating speech to the class about the importance of eating enough fiber was circulated throughout the school. Hope only had to pull out her phone and hit play to silence Bonnie when she tried to vent her frustrations on her before cheer practice later. Later, when Kim tried to work on her project with Bonnie, they soon discovered that they were more productive working alone. Kim moved to the opposite side of the library and took a seat at the table next to the one that Naruto and Hope were using, while Bonnie went home before long. She was wondering if she would have been happier with Bonnie. Bonnie was certainly annoying, but for some reason, the redhead found it annoying to be close to the flirtatious couple. When the communicator beeped, the redhead exhaled in relief. "What up, Wade?" she asked. "I've got a weird one," the young genius wrote back. Kim answered, "Good, anything is welcome distraction at this point." "Professor Ramesh from the Mount Middleton Observatory needs your help," told Wade. "I know that name from somewhere. I think he's a friend of my dad," murmured Kim. "Professor Chen, Ramesh's partner, is missing," Wade clarified. She turned and glared at Naruto and Hope, who were playing footsie beneath the table and having another mushy moment, saying, "Wade set up a ride. I'll make sure the lover boy here makes it one piece." "Come on, Naruto. Mission time," Kim said with a frown of annoyance. "Ah, really?" sighed Naruto in complaint. "I'm going to miss you." Hope teased, "Well, I'm going to miss you more." After confronting her, Naruto said, "No, I'm going to miss you more." "Nope. Not as much as me. Nah, I'll miss you more." "No way, I'm going to miss you way more," with a grimace, Kim said, "and I'm going to miss my lunch after I puke." The pilot and traffic reporter said, "And there's your live at 5 update from your eye over Middleton," as he touched down the helicopter on the verdant hills of Mount Middleton. Kim exclaimed, "Thanks for the lift, Dallas." As she emerged, although he was busy talking on his phone, Naruto was right behind her. "It's the least I could do after you brought that interstate police chase to a peaceful end," responded Dallas. As usual, Kim dismissed the compliment with the words, "It was no big, the guy didn't even know he had a broken tail light." "What kind of idiot wouldn't hear the sirens?" was the usual response from her blonde best friend, but he was otherwise distracted. "No, you hang up first. No, we do it at the same time on 3, okay? 1, 2, 3. Aw, you didn't do it. You hang up," he said, quickly irritating Kim. In frustration, Kim grabbed the phone from him and said, "I'll hang up." Naruto whimpered, "Hey, what did you go and do that for?" "Hello. We have a mission," the redhead said, staring at him as though he were crazy. An explosion from the observatory interrupted his protest. It could have waited a few more minutes. As they ran toward the observatory, Kim gave him a slap on the back of the head in return for his sheepish smile. There, in the building, Dr. Ramesh was struggling as he slowly retreated from the dark figures encroaching on him. Smoke poured out of his laboratory's damaged computers and equipment. The Indian astronomer begged, "Stay back," as the intruders completely appeared out of the darkness. When the light showed that they were 3 female robots, his mouth fell open in disbelief. All 3 had the same features: red eyes, blonde hair, and tight black clothing that covered their midriffs like a bikini and covered their upper torsos like a sleeveless Kim's mission top. Each of them had a mole-like indentation just above the right upper lip, and their hair was styled in a 1950s-inspired fashion with a hairband. As they approached him, the robots declared, "Dr. Ramesh, we have come for you." Who are you?" Dr. Ramesh asked, unable to understand why they would come for him. For a brief moment, the robots vibrated quickly before darting around the room at breakneck speed. The first appeared behind him and declared, "I am Bibi." When the second appeared to her left, it declared, "I am Bibi." As she encircled him, the third person declared, "I am Bibi." Kim said, "And I am Kim," as she and Naruto entered the building. Naruto whistled in gratitude and muttered, "Is it just me or am I seeing triple? Talk about taking a blow-up doll to the next level?" As they looked at Kim, the bebis said, "Analysis subject. Kim possible threat level, minimal." Kim retorted cynically, "Minimal? That cuts me deep?" Following that, they addressed Naruto, saying, "Analysis subject. Buffoon threat level, buffoon." Naruto yelled, "Hey, that doesn't even make sense. Wait a minute, only one guy calls me a buffoon. You work for Draken? Huh?" Dr. Smurf had to build himself some Smurfettes. The bebis were informed, threat level upgraded, Joker. "About time somebody appreciates my skills," Naruto grinned. "This is so not the time to stroke your comedic ego," Kim sighed. Kim performed 2 backflips before kicking the lead Bibi with a flying kick, charging the bebis with ease. The BB grabbed her by the legs and hurled her in the direction of the enormous telescope at the observatory. Kim was able to flip in midair, landing her feet on the telescope's side before landing hard on the ground. Kim said, "So, maybe the direct approach isn't best here." The heads of the 3 female robots were covered in foul-smelling gas. As soon as the gas dissipated, they began to vibrate and were found to be entirely unaffected. "Stink gas isn't going to work. They're robots, they can't smell," Kim exclaimed, perspiring. Naruto changed his strategy and threw some smoke bombs for cover in the center of the room where Professor Ramesh and the bebis were standing. "I knew that. Force of habit," he cried, swiftly darting in and out of the smoke. The blonde pushed Professor Ramesh toward the door in a wheeled office chair. Naruto turned and yelled at Kim, "Running around with all that hunky metal, they're probably really slow. Let's make a run for it." His suggestion turned into a query when Naruto turned around and discovered Professor Ramesh had left the chair. "Hey, where'd he go?" he asked. In the style of Inspector Gadget, one of Beeb's arms had reached out and pulled Ramesh out of the chair after their target, the bebis, began to vibrate. They quickly vanished out the front door, just past Naruto. "Okay. That speed is so not natural, and even it was, I'm still the fastest man in Middleton," Naruto said with a whistle. "The robots take Professor Ramesh. Now we've got 2 missing scientists, 3 killer bebis, and this is what you're worrying about," Kim yelled. "Hey, take it easy. KP, my main man Rufus was looking for clues while we were getting our butts kicked," Naruto said, holding his hands up in a conciliatory manner. Rufus squeaked, "Uh-huh. Got it." As he pointed out a broken picture frame on the ground, Kim picked up the picture frame as they approached it. Naruto remarked, "Whoa. The professor back when he had hair. Nice." That's Professor Ramesh. The guy on the left must be Professor Chen," said Kim. As he attempted to locate the face, Naruto muttered, "Hey, Kim, that third guy looks familiar." "Holy crap, it's my dad," Kim cried in surprise. There was a meeting of the minds back at the possible home. Naruto thought about proposing an official name for these kinds of events, similar to what they did for the Brain Trust, but he quickly discarded the idea when he realized that there was no other name as hip as Brain Trust that could be applied. While Naruto drifted in and out as he texted Hope, Wade and Kim primarily worked to solve the puzzle of the robots, the missing scientists, and her father. "Maybe Draken is trying to get to me through my dad," Kim thought. Wade nodded. "No way. It doesn't add up. Why would Dr. Draken attack you through your dad and his friends? It's not his style. His plans aren't complex in that way. He's all about creating schemes using some overly complicated doomsday device." In exasperation, Kim tugged at her hair and said, "You're right, it's not his mo." Naruto considered the following alternative. "It's definitely his work though. No one else calls me buffoon. Maybe he made the robots and sold them to someone else." "That could be it. Draken made the robots and sold them to someone looking for revenge against my dad and his posse. It has got to be Drew Lipsky," said Kim, leaping from her chair and pacing back and forth. "I've got no real connections here between them two," Wade said, bringing up their pictures side by side. "Drew Lipsky has pretty much been off the radar since he dropped out school. He has no criminal record. They kind of look alike, except for Draken being blue and all. Maybe they're cousins?" said Naruto. "Wait a minute, maybe he's not. There's no way." "What is it?" Kim asked, curious to know what he was thinking anyhow. Naruto chuckled. "I was thinking the Lipsky is Dr. Draken, but there's no way." "Yeah, that would be way too weird. We need to figure out something about my dad. Those bebis probably have them as the next target," Kim said after considering it for a minute before dismissing it as well. James entered the kitchen and was interrupted by the question, "Target for what now?" "I've made a few upgrades to my holograms, Dr. P. We're going to need to borrow your car for a few minutes in the morning," Wade said, suddenly inspired. "Can't you use your mother's?" asked Dr. Possible, nervously scratching the back of his head. James Possible walked out to his car the following morning, wearing a trench coat over his regular work clothes. He opened the doors, unlocked them, and tossed his lab coat and suitcase in the backseat. He was unaware that 3 robotic observers were observing him from his home's roof. One of the bebis declared, "Subject, Dr. Possible directive, capture." He shut the door and turned on the car, and the 3 bebis who were hiding on the roof closed in on their prey. James watched in horror as 3 metal fists pounded holes in his roof and then withdrew a sizable portion of it. The 3 bebis called out, "Doctor," as they reached down to remove him. "We have come for you." James Possible slammed the door of the Middleton High School gymnasium and yelled, "Kimberly Ann Possible." This stopped cheer practice. "Looks like the captain is about to get grounded," said Bonnie with a smile. "Daddy." "Hi," Kim said, Smiling artificially, she ran to embrace him and asked, "What are you doing here?" Dr. Possible stared at her. "You said, you needed my car only for a distraction, not that you were going to put a massive hole in the roof." Kim's eyes widened. He and Wade were only supposed to get a holographic version of you captured as bait so we could find the location of your missing friends. James grumbled, "Looks more like my car was the bait. That really grinds my gears." When Hope received a text on her cell phone, she interrupted, saying, "Kim, Naruto says he finished preparing his gear for the mission." Kim was lost now. "Gear? What gear?" she asked. Suddenly, Junior's head emerged from the trash can next to the bleachers, saying, "The boss says he's almost done with the mission gear, Kim." "Oh, boss lady is already on it, never mind me. Carry on," he said as he glanced around to see that Kim was not alone and saw Hope holding her phone. With a newfound respect, Liz said to Hope, "It's like you married into some sort of criminal organization. That is pretty cool." With a start, Kim said, "Come on Dad, it seems Naruto has been scheming again." He gave her a perplexed look and said, "Scheming?" Junior said, "Boss, use his pranking powers to outwit the villain," as he emerged from the trash can. Then he disappeared once more. Unorthodox counter-strategies. "Sounds intriguing," James said, scratching his chin. As they walked out of the gym, Kim shrugged and said, "When it works, yeah, other times it just means more work for me." "How in the hell does he keep doing that?" Bonnie exclaimed as she hurried to the trash can and lifted the lid to discover it was empty. Dr. Possible, Dr. Ramesh, and Dr. Chen stood in a dark room on a metal platform that was protected by an energy barrier. The three bebis stood watch around the platform. Their capture perplexed Dr. Ramesh, who asked, "Who could be behind all this?" "It's obvious. Some villain intends to use our genius to help take over the world," said Dr. Chen. "What else could it be?" As he entered the room, Dr. Draken interrupted, "Don't delude yourselves, gentlemen. There's only one who can call himself a genius in this room is me, Dr. Draken." Dr. Ramesh asked, Drew Lipsky, is that you?" "Wait, that's Drew Lipsky?" Dr. Possible went on. Bob confirmed, "He may be blue, but that's definitely Drew." With a snort and a jab at his ribs, Ramesh said, "Nice rhyme. It doesn't matter if he used to be our chum, Drew. He goes by the name of Dr. Draken now," told Dr. Possible. "No worries. My daughter and her comrade will be along to deal with you shortly." With a blank expression, Draken asked, "Your daughter? Who's she?" "Kim Possible, your arch foe?" asked James, giving him a sardonic look. "Wait, you mean to tell me that you, Dr. James Possible, my old college cohort, are related to Kim Possible?" Draken asked, incredulously. "Obviously." James shook his head. Dr. Draken exclaimed, "It is not so obvious. Possible is a common last name." Rolling his eyes, Bob said, "No, it's not. It is. I will prove it." Dr. Draken yelled as he lumbered off. "Where is the phone book?" Naruto had already left to carry out his portion of the plan after Wade had used the holographic Dr. Possible to track the bebis back to the middle motor lodge. The main idea was for him to divert attention while Kim and her father released his friends to start the diversion. All they needed to do was bring Dr. Draken the box he had left behind. They discovered Rufus munching away while waiting atop the box next to his Dr. P's car after packing it into his back seat. Dr. Possible left for the lodge. Kim objected to her father's slow driving, but they eventually arrived at the lodge. Dr. Possible moaned, "Man, what is in this box?" As he loaded the cardboard box onto a dolly from his backseat, the box was painted with a strange red, blue, and gray design. Wade used their tracing beacon to follow the bebis back to the middle motor lodge. "Hey, can I get a little help here?" The valet remained silent, stooped over his stand. "No help here. These people have all been hit with knockout gas," Kim said as she approached him and then peered inside to see the other staff members and visitors in a similar state. As he pushed the dolly through the door, James grunted and said, "Well, they better get this all ironed out for the reunion next weekend." "Kim, can you place the communicator on the front desk, so I can get a wireless tap into the intercom system?" replied Wade. Kim followed his instructions and said, "No problem, Wade." Wade said as he broke into the system, "You guys won't believe what the hollow Dr. P discovered. Naruto was right. Dr. Draken is actually Drew Lipsky." Shell-shocked, Kim said, "No way." Dr. Possible asked in confusion, "How in the heck did he turn blue?" Wade inhaled deeply and embraced his inner jerky boy as the two Possibles considered that fact. Draken stormed back into the room with his hostages and threw the phone book aside, saying, "Okay, so you were right." In Middleton there is only one possible family, but still there is no way I should be expected to conclude that my archenemies is related to some guy the first went to college with. The room was completely lit up, revealing the ballroom that would be used for the upcoming college reunion the following weekend. A call came through the intercom system before Draken could finish his tirade. "Yeah, this is Frank Rizzo from the loading dock. I've got a delivery here for a Dr. Draken. It says here it's some sort of doomsday device." Draken responded, "I haven't ordered any doomsday devices recently," as he approached and pressed the button. The man at the front desk answered, "It says here it was on back order. Do you want this thing or not?" "Well, it's about time then," Draken was shouting. "Leave it outside the door, I'll come and get it." "It's already there, genius." As he opened the conference room door, Draken said, "Oh, well then, thank you for your prompt service." He wheeled a strange gray, red, and blue box on a dolly inside. As he attempted to open the box, Draken muttered, "I wonder what device this one was. Perhaps the Megatronic laser." The blue mad scientist was hurled across the room and landed on his ass in front of his hostages when the box unfurled and a fist erupted from inside. Naruto exclaimed, "Give it up, Dr. Draken." As he emerged wearing his customized Autobox gear, a tiny gadget affixed to his ear gave his voice a robotic quality. "Who are you?" Draken yelled, stumbling to his feet in rage. "I am Boximus Prime, leader of the Autoboxes, and I'm shutting you down," said Naruto. "Wait a minute, where's she go?" "On vacation. Now tell me, who are you working for?" "It must be Dementor. Only he would send some sort of box robot to humiliate me in this fashion," yelled Dr. Draken. "Bebis, destroy him." "You must first catch me," Naruto exclaimed while dropping a smoke bomb. After the smoke cleared, he was replaced by a standard cardboard box. Draken ordered, "Not going to fool them that easily. Bebis, attack." When the three robots lunged forward and punched the box, they discovered it was just a typical box. Draken cursed, "Damn you, transforming robot boxman. That's Boximus Prime, jackass," exclaimed Naruto as he used his grappling gun to swing down from the ceiling and kick two Bebis into one another. The third wasn't taken by surprise, so she reached out and cut his grappling rope, sending him flying into a pile of folding chairs and tables. Naruto used a little more box trickery and abandoned his box gear to trap the Bebis in a curtain as they attempted to capture him. The Bebis recited, "Cannot find target," while attempting to untangle themselves. Draken yelled, "Forget Prime. Get the buffoon," as the switch tricked him as well. "If he's here then, possible is near." Kim and James crept in to liberate the other scientists while Naruto occupied the Bebis and Dr. Draken. Naruto's performance had the scientists all cheering, "Man box robot. Nice." Kim reminded them to, "Focus, people. We need to shut this thing down." After she used the communicator to scan the energy barrier, Wade said, "Yeah, the only way to shut it down is with its remote." When Draken turned around at last, he was taken aback by what he saw. Kim Possible. Dr. Possible. "Wait a minute, how are there two Dr. Possibles?" said Draken. Inside the containment unit, James's image flickered and changed to Wade, and he responded, "Oh, that's easy enough to explain. A hologram. Impossible," Dr. Draken cried out. "Your robots were easily fooled by my superior technology," said Wade. "If an actual human had done the job, they wouldn't have been fooled. Gra. I purposely programmed the Bebis with a pinch of human emotion just so they would be ashamed of failure like this. It's slipshot is what it is," said Draken. "Slipshot?" the Bebis asked, frozen in their fight with Naruto. "That's right, ladies," Draken shot back, "and I demand better from my robotic lackeys. You're supposed to be superior to the human ones. I designed you to be perfect in every way. Your sole purpose is to obey me." The blonde groaned as the Bebis pushed Naruto against a wall and moved away from him, forming a line in front of Draken. Question. If we are perfect, why do we obey one who is not perfect? Conclusion. Draken is unfit to lead, the Bebis said. It's college all over again. That man cannot build a robot, Bob said, rolling his eyes. Trust me, it's not just robots that he sucks at building, said Hollow Wade, shaking his head. As the three disobedient robots approached slowly, Draken staggered backwards and said, Now, Bebis, we can talk this out. The face-palming Kim muttered, You have got to be kidding me? She jumped into action after giving her dad the communicator as if performing a cheer pyramid. She flipped through the air and landed on the shoulders of two Bebis. She attempted to kick the third, but it caught Kim by the ankle and threw her across the room. As they knocked heads together, she slid across the floor after landing on her ass and then stopped. Dynamic, One of the bebis reached out to trip Naruto up in midair as he launched his flying surprise attack, sending him crashing face first to the ground, faceplant. His red-haired partner grabbed a microphone stand from the front of the room and used it as a staff to attack, but when it came into contact with one of Beeb's bodies, it broke in two. She was attacked by the bebis using palm thrusts and rapid, repetitive karate chops. Kim dodged their blows with the best of her cheerleader-enhanced kung fu skills, but it was becoming obvious that she was outmatched. Naruto stumbled to his feet and moaned, "Got a room full of smart guys, and not one of you has a single idea?" With a shrug, Dr. Ramesh said, "Sorry, astronomer." Ditto. Dr. Chen answered. The idea of helping was mocked by Draken, who said, "Every man, woman, and robot for himself." Dr. Possible asked Wade, "Wade, could you connect the communicator to the wireless network that the bebis are connected to?" "Yes. Draken forgot secure. Give me a few seconds, I'm in," Wade wrote as he worked on his computer. Domo arigato, Mr. Robot started to play from the communicator as Dr. Possible punched away at its buttons. "Good. Now, just a minute here," he said. Kim yelled, "Dad, this is no time to play music." James answered, "Actually, it's the perfect time. Downloading this song over a couple 100 billion times will cause too much traffic and eat up the memory of both the bebis and the command network. It's going to crash it just like a normal computer does when you try to do too many things at once, not to mention the little snippet of code I added with a buffer override just for kicks." As "Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto" sounded on their voice consoles, the bebis all froze and began vibrating for a moment before abruptly entering a robot rendition. Naruto mumbled, "Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto? Really? That's the best you can do? Rufus, hit me?" The hairless rodent yawned and leapt from Dr. Possible's pocket, scrambling up his arm to type on the communicator when the song switched to Kenny Loggins' iconic Caddyshack hit, "I'm Alright," complete with the gopher dance. The bebis reacted to his adjustments by pausing and vibrating once more, "I'm alright. And nobody worry about me. Why you go to gimme a fight, can't you just let it be? I'm alright, don't nobody." Unable to resist, Rufus began dancing along with his favorite song from his favorite film. Caddyshack. Classic. Drs. Chen and Ramesh couldn't contain their laughter as they gave each other high fives. The three dancing bebis collided and ripped apart with their jerky movements before blowing up and scattering robot body parts all over the place after Naruto and Kim delivered a pair of kicks. Naruto said, "Nice idea, Dr. P," and gave James the thumbs up. Kim added, "Yeah, way to go, Dad." Draken slammed his foot against a BB leg while attempting to stealthily flee. He was jumping up and down from the pain when he saw Kim and Naruto. Kim couldn't help but smile smugly when she realized his true name. "What about your big college reunion, Drew?" she asked. "Yeah, going to miss out on the big shindig lipshits?" Naruto snorted in amusement. "It's Lipsky," Dr. Draken exclaimed. "I mean it's Dr. Draken, and I'll return to the next reunion when I've taken over the world. Mwahahaha." After taking a remote control from his pocket, he pushed a button, causing a concealed jetpack to activate and launch him straight into the ceiling. "Damn you, Possibles. You think your family is all that, but it's not," Draken screamed, his body wedged halfway through the ceiling. "Little help here." On a Saturday evening, the Possible and Stoppable families decided to spend some quality time together at the Middleton Bowl during karaoke night. Well, what the parents thought was a fun family outing. Mai glanced at the clock and said, "Just waiting on Naruto, now." Kim laughed. "He's probably not coming. He'll call at the last minute saying he's going out with Hope instead." DJ Stoppable said, "I still can't believe that Drew Lipsky of all people turned out to be a mad scientist." James added, "And the arch foe of our kids no less, poor Drew. Maybe if we hadn't laughed at him back then, there would be one less mad scientist running around." "I know, but the way you told the story, plus Bob's pictures of him with them, it was just too funny," said DJ, who burst out laughing at the idea. "I didn't even know the guy before he turned evil and I couldn't stop laughing for 2 days when you told that story," Mai continued. "Why don't you head up, hun?" Anne said, noticing out of the corner of her eye that Kim was still pouting. "Get us started off. I'm sure Naruto will be here any minute." Kim walked up to the small stage and muttered, "Yeah, whatever." She picked up a microphone and looked to see what song would be played next. "Don't you forget about me," she said, snorting in frustration when she realized it was Simple Minds. Kim was about to begin singing when Naruto emerged from behind the curtains and moved to the front of the stage, interrupting her as the music started. Ooh. Hey, he. Would you mind coming to check on me? Oh." With a sideways hip check, Kim took control and said, "I'll be alone, dancing, You know it, baby. Don't you forget about me, was Naruto's attempt to regain the initiative. Forget about me. I'll put us back together at heart, baby, interrupted Kim once more. They sang, Don't You Forget About Me, together for a brief moment. After saying, don't, they attempted to push one another aside in an attempt to take center stage. Once more taking the initiative, Naruto said, Don't you forget about me, however, was short-lived. Naruto took a few steps back and then abruptly slid to his knees in front of the left side of the stage, tearing open his buttoned shirt. But you walk on by why, he said. Will you call my name? Kim said, imitating him as she slid to the right front of the stage and untied her ponytail to allow her hair to fall freely. No, Naruto exclaimed. Yee-ah, Kim exclaimed. At last, they got up and began singing as a group, I say, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. They gave each other a fist bump and sang cheerfully without even turning to face one another, and everything was fine once more, especially for Jim and Tim, who couldn't stop laughing at their own foolish appearance. Listen up, people. The time has arrived for you to vote in a new student government class president as a position of honor, prestige, and great responsibility. The burden is only for those fit to rise to the challenge. Mr. Barkin stood in the center of the gymnasium, delivering the morning assembly's message to the Middleton High student body. Next to Hope, who was quietly filing her nails, was Naruto, who had dozed off and was lying stretched out with a comic book covering his face. Kim, who was seated across from him, looked bored. They were just as uninterested in the man as the other students were. Mr. Barkin yelled, This is democracy, people. Now do as I say. Give me some nominations. With a sigh, Kim tried to wake Naruto up by nudging him in the side, but it didn't work. In his slumber, Naruto muttered, I want a double order of miso. Before trying a different strategy by whispering something into the sleeping blonde's ear, Hope shook her head. Kim possible. Naruto exclaimed, leaping to his feet. Who? What? Where's the ramen? Everyone asked, staring and laughing at the blonde as his eyes darted around the room in bewilderment. Rufus quickly went back to his dreams of cheese-flavored ramen noodles after sticking his head out of his pocket and wiping the sleep from his eyes. Bah, no ramen. Don't tell me you told him to shout my name out to get free ramen, Kim exclaimed, perspiring. It worked, didn't it? Hope asked, shrugging and returning to her nail file. As Kim received a round of applause for her nomination, Bonnie gritted her teeth until an evil smirk appeared on her face. Bonnie exclaimed, I nominate Naruto Stoppable. No, just wait a second, I don't want to run for president, a terrified Naruto cried. Mr. Barkin was told, he's not eligible to run either, too many detentions. With a sigh of frustration, Bonnie said, all right, I'll put Brick Flag forward instead. The rest of the students collectively asked, what? Brick was well liked, but he was also very stupid. A Brick. Brick had been enjoying some music when he heard his name and pulled out his earphone. What? He asked. Ah, how classic. The cheerleader versus the quarterback, smiled Barkin. Phew. Dodged a bullet there. I do not want that crappy job, exclaimed Naruto in relief. Kim asked him, what's that supposed to mean, with narrowed eyes. Naruto raised his arms in a manner of placating. I'd just rather be the man behind the scenes, the mob boss or the oyabun, making sure a certain candidate wins the election. Those guys can run things without actually having to run things. You know, for someone who saves the world on a regular basis, you have a lot of criminal-like tendencies and aspirations, said Hope. Kim gave him a sidelong glance and said, she has a point. Meh, shrugged Naruto, the world isn't so black and white. Kim shot back, then what color is it, orange? Naruto nodded. Nah, it's mostly green. Besides, rigging elections is a better use of my time than winning them anyway. Why would you want to rig a class election? Kim couldn't resist asking. Practice, Naruto answered. Hope was gone. To practice? Nodded. When the time comes where we need to save the world by rigging an election, I won't be caught with my pants down. No sir, I'll be good and ready. I'll even give the 50-cent guarantee. I'll win you this election, or die trying. Later that day, as lunchtime began, Bonnie and her small group of friends moved to the table where Kim, Hope, Naruto, Liz, and a few other cheer squad members were seated. She had the same goals as before. To use any means necessary to bring Kim down. When the brunette stopped in front of the table and flipped her hair, someone taunted her, saying, you should just save yourself the embarrassment, Kim, and pull out of the race now. Why is that, Bonnie? Kim sighed in frustration. Bonnie shot back, isn't it obvious? you're only going to get 2 votes. From the fiasco that was your cheerleader captaincy, we can safely assume that even if Brick was elected, he'd be resigning from the job in 2 weeks anyway, replied Kim. Bonnie didn't seem concerned, as if I should knock those 2 votes down to one your moron of a best friend would end up voting for Brick by mistake. Hey, Naruto interrupted. Everyone assumed that he would try to defend himself, but they were mistaken. You've got to give it up to the Chinese, and not just because they invented the Japanese. Bonnie and almost everyone else looked at him like he was crazy and asked, what? The unaware Naruto casually responded, this lo mein with mushu pork is ridiculously awesome, I highly recommend it. Then he resumed eating the delicious combination of noodles, pork, and vegetables. Bonnie said with a sly smile, 1 vote, Kim, 1 vote. Kim sighed. Really? Well, said best friend just also happens to be the single most destructive force in the history of Middleton High. I say the word and Brick never even makes it to the ballot. Knowing he had been complimented, Naruto jumped up and slapped her, saying, you know that's right. What's the matter, Kimmy? Can't do anything with your big dumb blonde security blanket, laughed Bonnie. Kim responded by getting Junior out of his seat and began to clap slowly with a sarcastic, what we just witnessed all here was another classic bitch moment courtesy of Bonnie Rockwaller. What's a bitch moment, you may ask? Urban Dictionary defines a bitch moment as a point in time where the word humorous is forced to be uttered. This pretty much happens every time Bonnie opens her mouth. Bonnie, you've had so many bitch moments that you have evolved beyond being a simple bitch. You are the living embodiment of an internet troll, and now that you've finished trolling, there's only one thing left to do. Troll face. He grabbed a Halloween-style mask from his backpack and slammed it onto Bonnie's head as he yelled. The entire cafeteria burst out laughing when it was revealed that the mask was an exact replica of Bonnie herself performing the troll. It's stuck, it burns, it itches, it reeks, Bonnie angrily exclaimed as she fought to remove the mask. Naruto grinned broadly and said, way to get creative with testing Wade's new burning, itching, and stinking spray glue. Rufus gave Junior a high five, and Junior shrugged and grinned, saying, I do what I can. Vinny exclaimed, here, all hail Queen Troll. Everyone exclaimed, long live Queen Troll, before they all started laughing once more. Kim heard the communicator beep, what's the sitch, Wade, as the laughter subsided. You've got 2 hits, the first from His Royal Majesty, King Wallace, told Wade. With a blank expression on her face, Kim said, and I should know this person because. In response, Wade said, he rules a tiny European nation. Naruto questioned, how small are we talking? The population is less than the Middleton Mall on a slow day, and it makes Senior's private island look like Texas, said Wade. Kim asked, what does he want with us? His son Wally is doing some sort of rite of passage pilgrimage, and he wants an America high school to be one of his destinations. King Wallace chose Middleton High in the hopes you could keep him out of trouble, stated Wade. Naruto deadpanned, so basically a babysitting job. Exactly, now onto the more pressing matter. Somebody stole JP Barrymore. The pizza party-torium will never be the same again, exclaimed Wade with hysteria. Naruto laughed, good riddance. Chuck E. Cheese's puts that place to shame. We're passing on that job. There is no way in hell I'm rescuing that damn bear. Naruto and Kim ended up across town at the Family Entertainment Center restaurant an hour after school let out. After school, the blonde and his girlfriend entered the janitor's closet, and he somehow regained consciousness at JP, but he couldn't recall ever agreeing to do the mission. Barrymore's the sour expression on Naruto's face as soon as they entered the establishment made it clear that he didn't like it. Kim ignored his resentment, concentrating on the task at hand as he questioned the upset manager wearing the restaurant's signature bow tie and red vest. This is a disaster, the manager exclaimed. Why would anyone be so cruel as to steal JP Barrymore? That dumb bear was useless anyway, just let the hippo take the lead, said Naruto, rolling his eyes. As though he were crazy, the bald-headed man gazed at him and said, the bear was carrying the rest of these hacks. JP Barrymore is a state-of-the-art animatronic musician, the rest simply don't compare. Snorting, Naruto said, he's got nothing on the chuckster. The manager smirked and replied, you don't see anyone trying to steal the mouse mo, do you? Why you? Naruto squinted at the man. Pizza partying animals aside, whoever the thieves were, they weren't very subtle, Kim said, turning the conversation back to the topic at hand and pointing out the enormous hole in the roof. The senior's aspiring father and son villain team was hovering over Middleton in a helicopter. The stolen animatronic JP was securely stored in the rear of the helicopter. Barrymore. Junior exclaimed, hee hee hee, as he flew their helicopter away from the crime scene. The older man grumbled, "Wrong again. My son of villainous laugh has much more bass. It's much deeper and has an edge to it. Try again." "The laugh is not important. I've completed the first phase of my plan by getting the bear," Junior said, rolling his eyes. Senior asked, "Yes, but why stop at only the bear?" Junior ignored his dad's worries. "You know nothing about music. Father, everyone knows that the bear carries the show. The others were useless, especially the off-key otter and idiot squirrel. You should never waste an opportunity, Junior, especially one to acquire a perfectly good squirrel," said Senior. "First of all, this is my plan, and secondly, that squirrel was not perfectly good. It looked ridiculous in that outfit," said Junior. His father reminded him that, "This is only your plan as long as you make sound decisions." Junior turned the helicopter around and moaned, "Okay, I'll get the other background animals. Perhaps I can switch the otter's instrument and put the squirrel in a jumpsuit or something." While Wade discussed the specifics of the case with Kim, Naruto and the manager were still debating Chuck E. Cheese's versus JP Barrymore back at the pizza party torium. "That bear really is state-of-the-art inside and out, Kim," said Wade. "It's the Mona Lisa of robotics." "Then we need to figure out who would want to get their hands on the animatronic technology. If we're lucky, they'll come back for more and we can catch them in the act," said Kim. Wade nodded with agreement. "We're lucky they stole JP and not one of the others. The restaurant might not have cared if one of the background animals went missing." Naruto was so engrossed in his argument with Wade that he failed to notice the other animals disappearing through the ceiling one by one until the hippo drummer next to him abruptly rose into the air. The manager, "No, not Pizza Potamus too. Going up, KP," Naruto yelled as he clung to the robotic mascot's drumming leg as they were raised through the ceiling. Kim jumped onto a table, then dove and grabbed Naruto's leg. Junior noticed the additional cargo they were dragging this time and piloted out of the restaurant as the hippo was pulled up through the ceiling. "It seems we've attracted some attention already. I told you we shouldn't have come back for the others. The clean getaway is ruined." Junior was upset. Senior laughed as he looked down through the window and said, "No, my son, this is even better. It's our arch nemesis and his assistant. What was her name again? It always escapes me. Lynn Principal or something. I will smash them into a wall or something to get rid of them." Junior sighed in frustration. No, that is not how this goes. Junior, you must give them a chance to shimmy up the cable and do something heroic," declared his dad. "He's way ahead of you, father," said Junior as he saw that Naruto had actually shimmied up the hippo and cable, with Kim right behind him. "Yo, dudes. You can keep the bear, but this hippo is coming back with me," said Naruto. "Not the bear thing again," grimaced Kim as he pressed a button to release the clamp holding the hippo. The elder Senior responded, "Very well, that is a fair trade." Naruto grabbed hold of the hippo as he released the cable and fell freely. He launched his grappling gun and whirled in midair. Naruto and the animatronic mascot were left on a collision course with a brick wall after the hook lodged itself in the wall of a nearby building at the last moment. Kim swung by on her grappling hook, changing their course and guiding them into a more amiable descent path with relative ease. The pair and their robotic mascot descended onto the grass of a nearby park. "Well, the thief may have gotten away, but we recovered the important stolen property," stated Naruto. An eyebrow was raised by Kim when she said, "The seniors still got away with JP Barrymore." Chuckling, "I did say important stolen property. Pizza Potamus pizza party torium will be way cooler than JP Barrymore's." "You're still harboring a grudge against a fictional mascot after all these years? You were 10, Kim exclaimed, shocked. The blonde frowned and said, "It doesn't matter, Kim. A ramen crime is an unforgivable crime." Kim nodded. "Whatever, let's get home. Wade says Prince Wally will be arriving in the morning." "Yeah, your name is the team name, so he's staying at your house," said Naruto. But Naruto began running away from Kim as she tried the puppy dog pout. "Black Jack, no take backs, touching black," he yelled while pulling his shirt. The following morning, Naruto saw the very unassuming white stretch limousine parked in front of the possible residence. As he approached Kim's house, it quickly became clear that Prince Wally had arrived, and that the Naruto had been right to dump him on Kim. From the kitchen house came the cry, "Oh, Mrs. Possible." "Yes," Anne mockingly mimicked Wally's response. Before Mrs. Dr. P decided to do some emergency brain surgery on her kitchen table, Naruto quickly hurried inside after wincing at the tone. "My cucumber sandwiches must have the crust removed before they are presented to me," told Wally. As Naruto entered the kitchen, he interrupted, "In America, it is illegal for anyone older than 10 to take the crust off of a sandwich." Wally reasoned, "But, technically, I'm a foreign diplomat. The law doesn't apply to me." As she left, Anne grinned and said, "But I'm not, so if you want no crusts, you'll have to do it yourself." "I don't know how," Wally complained. "Tough luck." Kim shrugged in response. "Wally this is." "Oh right. An introduction. What's up homie Holmes? I'm you main dude brother man and such," Wally was greeted. "What the dabbao did he just say?" Naruto asked Kim as he turned to face her. Kim shrugged her shoulders and said, "No clue. Wally, this is Naruto He ended their conversation. "Hold that thought a moment, could you move to the left just a smidge, the blinds are refracting the sun into my eyes. I think I just came up with a new wedgie technique, it's called the Prince Wally," said Naruto, who momentarily froze. "Hold it, Wally." Kim interrupted Wally's transformation into Prince Wally for a moment. He interrupted, "Royal Highness if it's all the same. Wally, could you just move your chair to the side a few inches?" said Kim, clenching her teeth. Wally nodded. "Well, I suppose if I fancied to move I could, but I really don't at the moment." Kim was at her wit's end even after only a few hours of dealing with the boy. "So is this the hood or what? Your crib doesn't look anything like the ones on MTV, Wally was upset. Naruto asked, "Can't we offload this dweeb on Bonnie or something? He's rich, she's a gold-digging bitch." With a thoughtful scratch of her chin, Kim said, "That isn't entirely a bad idea." Mrs. Possible gave the three of them a ride to school despite Wally's protests. Throughout, the royal pain in the ass grumbled about how much better his limousine would have been. Wally kept complaining, but Kim thought the limousine was too conspicuous for someone who was trying to blend in. Naruto briefly silenced him by saying that unless you wanted to be shot or stabbed, it wasn't cool to be driving through the hood in a limousine. As she eyed the emergency scalpel kit in her purse, Anne expressed her agreement that someone had been stabbed. Luckily, they arrived at the school before Wally's mouth opened once more. Before Mrs. Possible lost all patience, Naruto quickly got Wally out of the minivan. Wally was at it again before they could move even 2 steps toward the front of the school. "Why am I dressed in these rags? I certainly would prefer my own clothing to this," murmured Wally. "He is officially Bitch Wally and not Prince Wally because he's just a bitch," Naruto thought. Before she could even finish speaking, Kim's mind was already filled with pictures of herself performing each of her 16 kung fu styles on Wally. Wally was temporarily protected by Naruto's timely feed of hood knowledge. It's hood rich, the latest gangsta style. "Oh really?" Wally said, his eyes widening with comprehension. "You Americans have the strangest sense of fashion. I guess these could be burned after I'm done with them." Rolling her eyes, Kim said, "Yeah, you do that." They made it 2 more steps before they were interrupted, but it wasn't Wally this time. One of the female students exclaimed, "Oh, my God, he's here." Another squealed, "There he is, Prince Wally." The least of their troubles were the 2 girls from Middleton High. A large group of students, teachers, a reporter, and a cameraman from the local TV station were gathered directly behind the 2 girls for the visiting teen of royal ancestry. The media circus was in full swing. Wally laughed and exclaimed, "Oh, wow, my very own press conference." "What did you do?" Kim gave her best friend a death glare. "I only told Hope to spread the word, so we could pawn him off on Bonnie. I had no idea it would turn into this. Besides, this is a good thing," Naruto said, raising his hands in a conciliatory manner. "How is this circus a good thing?" Kim asked, prodding him in the chest. "If Bonnie is too busy sucking up to Wally and his money, she has no time to run Brick's campaign. The election is in the bag," said Naruto. He used the "Welcome Prince Wally" banner, which was now covering the "Pick Brick" banner on the front of the school, and the smaller font, "Paid for by Bonnie Rockwaller," at the bottom of both banners to further highlight his points. With a grimace, Kim said, "I told you I didn't want to win a rigged election." Naruto dismissed her worries. "This isn't a rigged election, KP, it's merely coincidental sabotage. I know your inner Kimness is demanding you fight Brick fair and square and kick his butt, but my inner Naruto-ness wants to remind you that there is no such thing as fair and square in politics." Kim nodded her head. "Inner Naruto-ness? Really? Do you pay attention to the words coming out of your mouth?" "On occasion, mostly I drift in and out," shrugged Naruto. The news crew had moved in to begin their story on Wally while Kim was interrogating Naruto. Once the cameras were on the prince, he was all smiles and no complaints. "It's not every day the Middleton plays host to royalty. Prince Wally just arrived in town today and graciously offered to give us an interview. Prince Wally, rumor has it you're endorsing someone for the school's upcoming election," said the female reporter. "Huh. This is going even better than I thought," said Naruto, pumping his fist. Murmured, "Yes, of course Kim something or other, The redhead who is standing right over there, I personally think she's too uptight and high-strung to be a world-class leader of my caliber, but I guess she's perfectly sufficient for a class president of a public high school. Kim complained. Oh, that little weasel. So, you think that you would make a better class president? The reporter asked with a sly smile. Wally confidently responded, of course, I've been groomed for leadership. You're saying that you would make a better class president than Kim possible? The reporter repeated. Wally laughed condescendingly and said, there's no need to say it, it's painfully obvious that I would. Perhaps, I should toss my crown into the ring. As the assembled crowd cheered for Wally, Naruto muttered, oh, this could be really good for you, Kim. How is Wally running for class president helping me? Kim asked, perplexed. Easy, he pushes Brick out the way and at worst splits his vote. Said Naruto. Brick was a far worse matchup for you. The girls will vote for him because he's the popular starting QB and the guys because he's the starting winning QB. That would leave you with the smart kids and guys who value your looks over Brick's QB status. Not enough to win. Wally on the other hand only has royalty and money going for him. Once exposed for being the douchebag he is, you'd take the election in a landslide. It is so on. Kim firmly stated, no, I decide when it switches from off to on right now. My campaign? You're off, after growing tired of his scheming. Oh. Come on, Naruto moaned. Kim yelled, not on, off, and hurried away. Naruto defended himself by saying, hey, I at least pawned him off on Bonnie, right? You should be thanking me. Kim, your parents won't cause an international incident by giving Wally emergency surgery and then launching him off to the nearest black hole. Kim, here it goes. Middleton High School was in the midst of election week, and the class presidential mock debate quickly arrived. While Bonnie left Brick's campaign to try to help Wally buy the election, Kim spent the week-long campaigns trying to do things the right way with flyers, posters, and handouts. Shirt buttons, enormous banners and posters, catered school lunches, and other free stuff were used to purchase student votes while the male half of the school detested Wally. The female half was utterly captivated by him. Kim used her final tactic right before the debate started because she was frustrated that she wasn't really making an impression on the student body. She whispered, it's on, as she hurried past Naruto and Hope and entered the auditorium. Guys, spread the word, it's on, Naruto said into his watch after merely smiling and pressing a button. What are you going to do? Asked Hope, raising an eyebrow. Just try and guess, Naruto said, turning his cheeky grin to face his girlfriend. Put that away, already. Here's the freaking plan, Naruto sighed in frustration when Hope simply gave him a puppy dog pout. After a few minutes, every student except for Kim, Wally, and Brick was seated in the auditorium, while the three aforementioned students stood on stage behind three podiums, observing their classmates by establishing sensible ground rules. Mr. Barkin effectively reduced the debate to a trio of campaign speeches rather than a debate. Everyone was glad to be out of class and didn't really care in any way when Wally was chosen at random to kick things off. He did it in his own special way. It is quite obvious that I am the best candidate for class president. I am the most qualified. Leadership is in my blood. It's natural for peasants like yourselves to desire the guidance of superior people like myself, stated Wally. Now, I believe. Boo this man. Boo. Vinny interrupted him as he leapt from his chair and threw an empty water bottle at Wally. With a chorus of boo, the male half of the gymnasium started to serenade the young prince. When they began hurling more objects, Mr. Barkin stopped them by saying, settle down, people. This is a debate, not amateur hour at the comedy club. Junior muttered, could have fooled me, loudly enough for everyone to hear. Mr. Barkin yelled, detention, Junior, as Junior and Naruto slapped fists. Lame. The blonde replied with a moan. What are you waiting for, flag? Let's get this show on the road, instructed Barkin. The elder senior took a sip of a purple drink with an umbrella in it and hummed, while Junior tinkled at a control panel a short distance from his seat. He sat on a pink lounge chair in their newest lair. At the moment, the lair had the appearance of an exotic nightclub, complete with a multicolored dance floor and windows tinted fuchsia. All of the stolen robotic animals were housed in cages with ceiling-mounted displays and were decked out in disco attire. JP Barrymore had a huge red afro and a gold medallion around his neck. The disco ball was the only item missing from the scene. Junior muttered, what is it, father, as he fiddled with the lights and sound controls. Senior took another sip of his drink and said, I didn't say anything. Junior shot back, sure you did, you said, Senior sighed, I did not mean to say, this is your evil disco, not mine. Junior exclaimed, good, now 3, 2, 1, go. The dance floor came to life when Junior pushed a button on the control panel. JP was the disco theme. The beat roared through the speakers, and Barrymore and his friends started dancing. Yes, it is a very nice display, Junior, but where is the villainy? Asked Senior. Junior whimpered, Father, please. We agreed that this was my plan. Then explain it to me. You've taught the animals to cha-cha-cha, but what is your villainous scheme? Said Senior, shaking his head in frustration. Junior laughed. My plan is this. As the funky animals dance to the pounding beat, the crowd will be inspired to do the same. And then? Senior asked, his eyes brightening with curiosity. Then everyone will party all night long, Junior exclaimed as he performed a victory dance. Everyone will dance? That is your evil plan? The Senior said with a facepalm. No. I will also overcharge for parking and beverages, ha 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 ha, Junior continued before he was done. Senior thought with a drop of perspiration, that has got to be the worst evil plan I have ever heard of. The communicator beeped just as Kim and Naruto were ready to leave for home after school. Kim inquired, What's the scoop, Wade? I've got a lead on the Seniors. Junior's been spamming people with an emailed video. Check it out, told Wade. On the communicator, Wade's picture vanished, revealing a video of Junior dancing under strobe lights. As the camera panned around, it revealed a nightclub with animatrons in cages hanging from the ceiling, all dressed in 1970s attire. Love the nightlife? Like to boogie? Then jam on over to Club Lair, Europe's newest, hottest, and most exclusive disco. Drive a little and party all night long. With a roll of her eyes, Kim said, He sure does love the camera. Naruto muttered, I think he only loves himself more. At the ridiculousness of it all, Wade could only shake his head and say, At least they won't be hard to find. All right, I have a plan. We need to call in a favor to somebody with a chopper. We'll do the Seniors just like they did the pizza party Torium, Naruto said with a sudden smirk. The only way we'll be able to take them back like that is with no one watching. We'll need, Kim said, scratching her chin as she considered the situation. He interrupted her, like I said before, I have a plan. We'll need to make a stop before we head over, though now is the ultimate test, to determine if it really does go with everything. Kim decided she didn't really want to know after seeing the smile on Naruto's face, saying, You know what, I'll just focus on the retrieval part. Wade, you coordinate with Naruto. You sure? You don't know, Wade said, raising an eyebrow. Kim promised, and I don't want to know. On the night of its grand opening, Club Lair was ablaze with music. The club's grand opening felt like a big event, thanks to the rotating floodlights that accentuated a brightly lit sign featuring Junior's face. VIPs were dropped off on the red carpet as limousines arrived one after the other. The entire courtyard was already encircled by the line. As he observed the assembling crowd, Junior exclaimed, Yes, this is exactly how I envisioned it. We are going to boogie all night long, from inside. His father reminded him that none of this boogieing until after the plan is fully initiated. Yes, Junior said, rolling his eyes, first the plan, then we party. Senior gave a nod, saying, Much better. Junior laughed, This is a stupid plan anyway. I don't care about taking over everything, I just want to daw. His father reprimanded him, saying, I forbid you to speak the D word. Junior said with a shrug, whatever. As he went to greet the different VIPs entering the club, his father had a broad smile on his face. The elder Senior shook the man's hand and said, Welcome, Ambassador. So pleased that you could make it. Then the thick-muscled, portly man extended his hand for Junior to shake. After raising an irritated eyebrow, the younger man gave in and shook the man's hand. The criminal father and son stood at the door, mingling and exchanging greetings until a considerable number of people had arrived. While most people just mixed in the different lounge areas and the bar, a few went out onto the dance floor. The elder Senior took his place at the disco control panel just as the audience was beginning to get excited when he pulled a lever. A disco ball fell down from an opening in the ceiling above the center of the dance floor. It began to spin and release a strangely colored light. When they saw the new addition to the festivities, everyone below turned and looked up, and they all instantly froze and fell into a hypnotic stupor. Yes, everything is working perfectly. The highly intense light of the super neon has been refracted into a hypnotic pattern from the modified disco ball. They are all now under our control, said Senior, smiling and rubbing his hands together. You couldn't leave well enough alone. You just had to modify my disco ball, Junior was grumbling. He took out a cell phone and dialed the third number on his speed dial, ignoring him. The man with the thick beard and brown hair at the other end of a switchboard said, Hello, Europe. This is C plus or minus or senior. I am currently in control of a disco crowded with numerous of the world's fabulous VIPs, said senior. Can you speak up, sir? The music is very loud, the operator sighed. The ransom I demand for these VIPs is that you make me king of everything, requested senior. Before making what he thought was a crank call, the operator said, yeah, I'm going to have to somebody get back to you on that, and if you could turn the music down, that would be great. Senior yelled into the dial tone, hello? Are you there? I said king of everything. Junior grumbled, can you hurry up and get this blackmail over with? I'm ready to party. Senior said, have some patience, my son, we are about to become royalty. Junior said, royalty, smoilty, I just want everybody to D, with an annoyed roll of his eyes. Don't say it, the hypnotized victims will immediately follow the first suggestion given, his father said, clamping his hand over his mouth before he could finish. Junior protested, well, I want them to follow my suggestion. Senior retorted, now is not the time for your insolence. Naruto had been eager to see what scheme he would devise. Overall, it was one of his better plans, the seniors would be completely unprepared. However, it became painfully clear that a well-thought-out plan was completely unnecessary as Team Possible observed the events from their hiding place on the rooftop. There was no need for a typical Kim unleashes all 16 styles of kung fu strategy. There was no need for even a last-minute, half-baked plan that was taken directly from Naruto's ass. There was a huge gap left by the seniors that just could not be taken advantage of as the seniors kept arguing. Naruto grimaced and asked, are they really going to make it this easy? Hey, they're from your gallery of rouges, not mine, said Kim with a shrug. Wade, change of plans, could you connect the sound system to my radio frequency? Replied Naruto. Kim added, please and thank you, with a 1 second and done, Wade answered. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. First, I would like to thank you all for participating in today's Retro Club sampler drill. Had you been in any real danger, you'd all be completely screwed. Oh please Mr. and Ms. Teen Hero, save us. Maybe next time Mr. Teen Hero will be with his girlfriend and Ms. Teen Hero will be at Club Banana getting her shop on. Both too busy to save your sorry asses. The seniors squabbled to a halt when the club music abruptly stopped and someone cleared their throat over the sound system. Yes, absolutely. Kim nodded in agreement, thinking. Disco is dead folks and half of y'all is way too old to try and be out partying anyway next time. Stay and count your money and knit a sweater or something now. On the count of 3 you will all regain your senses and exit the club in a nice and orderly fashion. And on a more pleasant note, I would like to thank all of you for flying D-Force Airlines 1, 2, 3. Senior yelled, no, what have you done? As the assembled VIPs started to leave. That was pretty cool, Junior mumbled in amazement. Never be in awe of your enemies, said Senior, giving his son a slap across the back of the head. As he and Kim fell from the ceiling, Naruto boasted, you shouldn't blame him, Senior, I'm just that good. As I turned on the stolen animatrons, Senior said, don't get ahead of yourself too quickly. My arch foe the disco ball wasn't the only modification I made to this plan. Attack my robotic animal pawns. Kim interrupted, hold that thought for just a moment, she said. Why? Asked Senior, who stupidly refrained from pressing the button. Wait for it and now, Kim said, holding up her hand to silence him. Suddenly Senior's cell phone rang and he answered, hello, this is Senior. Now is not a good time. Mother, no, I didn't say any such thing. No, sigh, wait, do not put her on the phone. Junior is busy, I said. Sigh, here son, your mother wants to talk to you. Yes, he did it again. I just wanted to dance, mother, but father, but that was father. I didn't. Yes, mama, Junior said, snatching the phone from his father. With a remote in hand, Senior said, you win this round, my arch foe, but the next time you won't be so lucky, and turned it on. Seniors were encircled by smoke rising from the ground, and when it cleared, they were no longer visible. Well, they did the disco ball behind. We could use that to help with the election, said Naruto. Kim laughed and said, I'm not that desperate. After giving a shrug, Naruto fired his grappling hook and proceeded to retrieve it, saying, Wade might be able to do something with it. 2 days before the election, it had been a normal day at Middleton High, with teachers and students rushing to leave the school shortly after the last bell rang. A typical day came to an end, and then all hell broke loose. The office assistant ran out of the filing room to answer the school office phone when it rang. As soon as she did, she ducked for cover as a student desk smashed through the window that faced the hallway. The desk collided with the copy machine, sending papers flying everywhere and shattering glass everywhere. The slamming of a classroom door reverberated through the corridors, followed suddenly by another glass smash as someone smashed through the history classroom window and into the hallway. The sight of someone dressed as the Burger King, complete with the crowned mask, white leggings, flowing puffy red robe, large medallion hanging around his neck, and golden sack hefted over his shoulder, left both students and faculty in a state of shock. Roland Colby, the gray-haired history teacher, stumbled on a banana peel the king had left in his path as he hurried out the door to his classroom. "Somebody stop that king! He's crazy!" exclaimed Mr. Colby as the king fell into a row of lockers. Two boys from the basketball team went to confront the person wearing a royal disguise. They fell to the ground with broken ankles after the king stumbled and hip-checked the approaching janitor into a garbage can before slapping gullible onlookers in the face with unwrapped cheeseburgers he had stashed in his sack. The king paused and taunted the students and teachers who were watching by waving his finger before running out the double-door exit to wreak more havoc elsewhere. The king mimed that he was laughing at them. Unaware, Vinny passed by, grabbed a burger off a girl's face on the ground, and said, "Delicious," after taking a bite. While Vinny was enjoying his burger, the Kings left a chaotic trail behind him as he headed to the football field for practice. Mr. Barkin yelled from the sidelines, "Let's run that play again, people, and we're going on doing it until you get it right." The players hurried into position around the 35-yard line, which was the line of scrimmage. Brick said, "Blue 42, blue 42, hut, hut, hut," as he moved to the line of scrimmage and went under center. Mr. Barkin saw that there were just 10 men on the field to defend him as the center snapped the ball. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a figure running onto the field at the last second, and he decided to let the play continue instead of blowing the play dead with his whistle. This would soon turn out to be a very bad error on a post route. Brick dropped 5 steps, planted his back foot, and fired the ball 20 yards down the middle of the field at the last second. A defender jumped the route and intercepted the pass, which appeared to be on target, but it wasn't just any defender. The king was there. "What the hell?" Brick mumbled. Bewildered, the other defenders began blocking offensive players to clear a return lane without even realizing they had fast food royalty playing free safety. The king high-stepped the final 15 yards into the end zone and raced down the sideline into open field, too fast for anyone to catch when the king did a touchdown dance. The players all halted and gaped at him in disbelief. "Get him off my field!" yelled Mr. Barkin. "What are you standing around like idiots for?" Before the king could get his golden sack from behind the goalpost and hit Mr. Barkin in the face with his final burger, they all moved to overthrow him. As he joined the chase, Mr. Barkin yelled, "You're finished, burger fool." He jumped over a fence and ran behind the bleachers, briefly disappearing from the players' and coach's view. They were unable to see him once they were behind the bleachers, but they continued to pursue him in the direction of the parking lot after noticing his dropped golden sack. Naruto and Hope were playing tonsil hockey beneath the bleachers when Mr. Barkin passed by, and he was so enraged that he didn't even bother to bother them. After continuing the chase across the parking lot, the players and coach ran out of space and were unable to locate the robbed person. Mr. Barkin began giving his players free rein until he became aware of the time and location of his most recent sighting of Naruto. The blonde and his girlfriend had long since left, along with any proof, when he led them back to the bleachers. Frustrated, the vice principal yelled, "Stoppable." The slogan of the possible campaign's final push for the election was, "Royalty can't be trusted." The school was buzzing with posters, t-shirts, buttons, and even a YouTube video of the king's adventures. It also didn't hurt that they emphasized how much Wally's father, King Wallace, resembled the costumed king. Wally was unable to bounce back from the scandal's assault, and Kim easily won the election. A celebration was held at JP, Naruto's least favorite spot in town, Pizza Party Torium Barrymore's. While everyone else sat there playing video games and eating cheap pizza, Naruto sat there frowning. "I don't get it. What exactly is your beef with AJP Barrymore?" asked Tara. "He's just a mascot." "That's the mascot of the heathens is what it is," a furious Naruto shot back. Kim nodded. "Let me regale you with the disastrous tale of Naruto's 10th birthday party." Rewind. Naruto's 10th birthday. The whole Naruto birthday celebration froze in stunned silence as the JP the Barrymore mascot spilled all of Naruto's birthday ramen on the ground, which is the one thing you should never do on his birthday. Like a volcano on the verge of erupting, the blonde child exclaimed, "You. It was just ramen here, kid. Have some pizza and a can of Mountain Dew." The man in the mascot suit obviously didn't realize how serious the situation was. Naruto's father yelled, "No," but it was too late. The reason Mountain Dew was prohibited in the stoppable home quickly became clear. All she wrote for his sanity was that the young blonde drank the beverage like Popeye would a can of spinach. "Let's go." Naruto yelled. "Chill out, kid," the costumed staff member said with a laugh. "Shut up, JP Jelly Moore. I'm 10 years old, but I'll beat your fat ass," shouted Naruto. "Kick him in the back of the head," encouraged his cousin Sean, who adored the show. "I'm gonna come at you like a spider monkey. Chuck E. Cheese would run circles around your fat ass and bite your head off," Naruto said, throwing his pizza at him. A little freaked out, the mascot exclaimed, "What the hell is up with this kid? He's crazy." Naruto taunted, "I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew. Let's go, instead." "Come on. Let me at him. Let me go. I'll get him. Let me at him. I'll get you for this. You won't get away with this. I'll get you. You're all mine," said Naruto's distressed and ashamed mother, who grabbed him by the collar of his shirt before he could throw himself at the restaurant mascot. Anne could scarcely contain her laughter as Kim stood there, her mouth agape, unable to control their laughter. James and DJ were having a great time. James said, "You better have had the camera rolling." "Got the whole thing," said Naruto's father, DJ, with a beaming smile. End of flashback. After Kim concluded her story, there was a brief pause before everyone burst out laughing. The blonde complained, Yeah, laugh it up, I take this shit seriously." Naruto felt someone was staring at him after the party ended and everyone was heading across the parking lot to their individual rides home. When he turned around, he saw that it was the JP outside the restaurant's doors as the Barrymore mascot. When Naruto finally saw the original Fred, the same man wearing the same bear suit, a fire ignited in his eyes. They looked at each other as if they were rivals in a great martial arts film. The man in the bear suit threw down the gauntlet, so to speak, and lifted his paw-covered hands into the air to reveal a pair of nunchucks. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the bear man and said, "Hey, you guys wait here a sec. I've got some unfinished business to take care of." As he strode over to the mascot, Naruto spat at the ground and said, "I've been waiting on this day for 6 years now." The man stretched the nunchucks in front of his body and grunted menacingly. A threatening sneer twisted Naruto's face, and then they both darted straight at one another. The bear jumped to meet Naruto with a flying kick of his own, and Naruto jumped into the air to spin. Their long-awaited battle had finally started when they clashed in midair.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.